Hello, Mick. Thanks for coming in. Can you hear us? I just want to see it. Mick, can you hear us?
It's been doing that for a while. Right, kick off and kick back on again.
Mick, can you? No. Yeah, we won't be able to do it, because I'll have to see it.
Or minimise it so that if you need to say something, one can. Just stop share. Share and do the resolution.
Oh, no.
We'll get to it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming along to today's Snorri Valley's Council meeting, Thursday the 19th of June 2025. We have two people to speak in the public forum. Stephanie Bailey is going to speak on the vouchers, the waste vouchers. Stephanie, I said you were to go second, but Mick's having... Oh, no, Mick, you're in. Can you hear us?
I am now.
Hello. So we've got Mick from Gray Surveyors to address. There's 3 minutes, Mick, and then there'll be questions afterwards. And we'll start with you. And David, you've got 5 minutes apparently, and David Shillen's leaving. Okay, when you're ready, Mick.
Yep. Okay. Good afternoon, councillors and council staff. My name is Mick Gray. I'm a registered land surveyor of 18 years with 26 years planning experience with over 40 years of surveying experience. I started young helping my dad out. Thank you for this opportunity to talk on behalf of my client and Gray Surveyors. Note that I also speak as a concerned local and a ratepayer within the LGA. A comment for later thought. Would you jump off a cliff because someone said so? It'll be okay. You'll land in the lake. It'll be fun. For later. Now, subdivisions, what are they? Generally, a mechanism to divide land into smaller parts, basically to make more ownerships and more ownership opportunities. But boundary adjustments and boundary realignments, they're sort of different, but they're not. They're still subdivisions, as they're defined by the Conveyancing Act. These subdivisions do not create any additional building entitlements, and they have been in alignment with the rural land set, which has now been merged into the LEP. The proposal is a subdivision. Its proposed heading is plan a proposed subdivision. So we're not trying to change the fact that it's a subdivision or a boundary adjustment or a boundary realignment, because they're all the same. The proposal seeks to utilise clause 4.2C of the Tumen LEP, not 4.1, not 4.2, not 4.2A or B, just 4.2C. Other clauses must be considered within the LEP, but not 4.1 and 4.2 and 4.2A and B when you're utilising 4.2C. They don't apply. Clause 4.2C was introduced to the LEP in 2017, and we've been using it successfully for 8 years. Since the introduction of the Tumen LEP in 2012, there was a gap in the LEP and the code set, which is exempt development. So basically for 4.5 years, there was a gap where 4.2C now covers. So surveyors had to use either one or the other, the LEP or the code set. There was different opinions formed across the state based on its flexibility of the use of the code set, which is why most councils now have adopted the 4.2C clause in their LEP to close the gap. between 2008 and 17, that was our only option to use the code set to undertake boundary adjustments in the LEP. Oh, sorry, the local government area. And we used it with great flexibility due to the emissions and inflexibility of the LEP. With clause 4.2c, there is no restrictions relating to the size of the change. There's no restrictions in resulting the lots not resembling the former lots, nor there is any limitation on how significant the change of the boundary position can be. Because what we're doing is a boundary adjustment, call it that, or call it a subdivision. We're just adjusting the two former lots into two new lots for the change of ownership or the creation of the titles for that purpose. The main topic of the clause 4.2c is that it does not create any additional building entitlements. The current land has one entitlement per lot, and the resultant proposal has one per lot. So we're not creating any additional entitlements. So therefore, the proposal is therefore compliant. For those who don't know, one can build two dwellings on each lot. That's before the subdivision proposal goes through and after. So the client has the ability to build 4 houses right now, based on legislation. The Uralla Shire Council introduced 4.2c clause into their LEP. Their council minutes state the following: the boundary adjustment clause provides flexibility for boundary adjustment subdivisions. I highlight the last word, subdivisions. They didn't just call it a boundary adjustment, they actually referred to it as subdivision.
Nick, that's 5 minutes now, thank you.
Has it?
Will we open the floor to questions, please, councillors?
Do you want me to stop for questions?
Yeah.
I'd like to know how.
Councillor Hayes and Councillor Inglis. Okay, Councillor Hayes, if you go first.
So, Nick, have you got any idea how many times it has been used, 4.2c, since 2017?
I do have a list. I was going to get on to state that council has set a precedent by using this clause. Elliott, Mooney, Murray, Masters, Dumbrell, Kelly, Piper, Porritt, Cannon, Roddy ×2, Cathles, O'Sullivan, Bowden, and Elliott again. That's just a quick list that I made up of how many times we've actually utilised this clause. It's not something that gets done all the time. It's only when a client comes to us with a special need in special circumstances. So that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Councillor Inglis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mick, I mean no disrespect, but is this your interpretation of the clause or the relevant clause of the LEP, or have you taken some advice on it?
What I was alluding to by what I was leading up to was when we had the gap between the code set and the LEP, I discussed this in length with Jim Mumford, Senior Town Planner at Council at the time, and he understood that there was a gap. We used exempt development because there was nothing else, but he brought this clause in for that gap to occur, and his interpretation is my interpretation. We did ask Jim Mumford to attend this meeting, but he declined. But if he was here, he would basically support this assessment process to get approval, because that's what he did after he brought this clause into force.
Well, you're aware that the council has advice that your interpretation is not correct. Do you suggest we should just ignore that and continue to do what we've done in the past?
Well, precedent's been set. So council has to honour that under case law. The cases that are in the council minutes meeting, in the recommendation, they're all flawed. The first one refers to set 4 that doesn't exist anymore, and the other 2 refer to exempt development. Doesn't refer to a clause such as this in the LEP.
Thank you. I think I understand your position, Mick.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank you.
Michael.
Councillors, any other questions?
Just one.
Councillor Packer?
So to achieve what your client wants to achieve, as a surveyor, do you see other strategies that could be used other than enacting 4.2C? I mean, it would seem if it is a subdivision, there would be other elements within the LEP that would enable just a straight subdivision to happen.
Well, there's nothing else. There's no other mechanisms. That's why I went through the steps of the planning legislation is complex. It's built up with a bit of history, and it's not something that just happens. If council staff believe that there's a gap, like I was suggesting there was back in 2012 to Jim Mumford, then perhaps they should be changing the LEP to close that gap, to allow stuff like this to happen. But this interpretation from council staff is based on a definition of what is a subdivision, what is a boundary adjustment. And that's why I alerted to you the fact that a boundary adjustment is a boundary realignment. It's a subdivision. The Conveyancing Act defines, it's the only definition in there that defines what a subdivision is, and there's no definition of what a boundary adjustment is or a boundary realignment. The code set doesn't do it. The LEP doesn't do it. When you go to case law, it's open for interpretation.
Thank you, Mick. Any other questions, councillors? Yeah, councillor Worth?
Just curious about, here we've got the legal advice. So it says here, oh, it is, okay, well, I just want to understand, with the subdivision that you're specifying, there's currently already a dwelling on the original title. The subdivision that you're proposing is for 2 titles. Is there 2 dwellings on those, or opportunities or ability to build on those 2 titles that you're proposing?
Andrew, the proposal is a subdivision of 2 lots. There's a small lot that's adjacent to the creek, the Goobaganda River, that was obtained by my client under possessory title application. On its own right, it has building entitlement. That was established, I believe, by my client. The other parcel of land, which is the larger and takes up most of the area of the land, is a residue of a concessional lot subdivision that was carried out by my father, and it was a lot that was permissible for a dwelling entitlement at the time the LEP was created in 2012. So the 2 lots to begin with have a building entitlement, and what we're doing is trying to adjust the 2 to have a better economic layout that would suit better development for both sites. It actually minimise conflict or reduce conflict, and be better for the community and better for the neighbouring landowners.
The building right that hasn't been utilised that you're suggesting, is that from a concessional allotment from previous, or is that part of the small allotment that was on the creek?
The larger lot, being the residue of a concessional block, is about 90 hectares in size. And under the old LEP of 1990, it was an existing lot that had an entitlement to build, but it also had a concessional block to create lot 1, I believe, that's in the north of the proposal, or the north left of the proposal. Just let me bring it up. Yeah, it's adjacent to the north point on the proposal. So that concessional block was excised, but the residue still had a right to build. So that resolves the larger lot, being the lot 2 in DP 851. The portion 335 is the possessory title application that was carried out by Kerry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you for your time. One last question.
Hi Mick, just in relation to the size of the actual lots, I think the existing small portion is 1.2 or 0.02 hectares currently, is that right?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't
existing?
calculated the area. I know it's 45 metres wide.
Because this actually relies on the area. And the larger one is 99.98. But with the new proposal, what would be the two lot sizes of if it was to go with a boundary adjustment, what is the size of the two new blocks?
One's
In hectares.
One's 39 hectares, I believe.
Right.
38.8, and the other's 59 hectares. The smaller lot, the existing lot, is about 1 hectare.
Yep.
If I refer back to my comments, the 4.2C does not refer to anything about changing size, shape, or alteration. So the comments in the recommendation from council staff is ill-founded, because 4.2C does not address those issues. If you meet the requirements of 4.2C, then you meet the requirements to do that subdivision under that provision.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? Mick, we thank you very much for coming along to address us today. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Our second speaker today is Stephanie Bailey. And Stephanie's worked very hard to get a petition together about the waste vouchers. And Stephanie would like to use the whiteboard. Councillor Hardwick, I don't know if you could just swivel the TV a little so you Councillor Sheldon, come back so that the TV could see the whiteboard. Yep, that's all we need. And I think you can see everyone of our you've been cut out.
Councillor Hayes who's cut out.
Oh, it is Councillor Hayes that's coming. Councillor Hayes, would you mind moving up here? Councillor Packer.
I come in under 3 minutes, so
Okay, please, Stephanie.
good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stephanie Bailey. I'm an organic orchardist at Backlow, and the Resource Recovery Officer asked if I could please tell you this about myself. I am actually an avid waste minimiser. I buy my grains and legumes in 20-kilo bags, and any fruit and veggies I buy go straight in a cardboard box. They don't go in any plastic bags. What I can't compost or recycle totals 4 council bins per year. And I previously used my quarterly vouchers to attend to each of those 4 rubbish bin pools. I am the chief petitioner for the waste vouchers petition. In just a few weeks of the petition being on the front counters of the post offices at Adelong, Batlow, Cancoban and Tumbarumba, 417 citizens signed that petition, which is requesting that the annual 2025 allowance of 2 cubic metres of household waste be spread over 4 vouchers instead of 2. This would reduce household waste piling up for 6 months at a time, would minimise vermin and fire hazards and roadside dumping. All these are concerns that have come up for the petitioners. I am most impressed with Snowy Valleys Council's excellent waste management program and the admirable dedication and passion of the on-site staff. It's just world class, and it's really exciting to see them really getting into it. And I'd like to be part of spreading that enthusiasm in the community. While I've been this new chief petitioner, I've met other people who are focused on waste minimisation also. One woman said to me, a mother with young adult children, she said, when I was in high school, my science teacher told me, every piece of plastic you've touched is still alive. And so his words ring in her ears whenever she's buying things in the supermarket that have wrappings. I envisaged 6 volunteers from the community to liaise with the Resource Recovery Officer in producing a video for the community with the following points. 1, extol the virtues of the present program. 2, well, because it's just so excellent. It's multifaceted, it's world class, it's just amazing. So, to inspire confidence in that program in the community. And the Resource Recovery Officer really made a big point when I was touring the waste management facility that the biggest efficiency factor is people sorting their waste accurately. So the video would include awareness and responsibility for waste sorting, and motivate people to really, really get on board. There is in the agenda a note that to go to 4 vouchers instead of the present 2 would cost. But I'm envisaging that if we can get community people involved, a photographer or the high school photography class, or some people who can make a really top class video, that we would actually overall reduce the waste, and therefore it wouldn't cost council so much to have these really valuable vouchers. In regards to the review mentioned in the agenda, I'm willing to volunteer to assist with community input. I expect there would be a survey of some kind. There are hundreds of people watching their space on the counter in their post office. So I've got their ears and their eyes, and these people would be really keen to give council feedback about whether they would use a voucher for a mattress or a fridge, all those really, really good ideas that are mulling around with the Resource Recovery Officer, and to make comments. So I request that to get the community on side and highly motivated while the proposed review is being carried out, that you please consider 4 vouchers instead of 2. So if the 4 vouchers are reinstated, at the very minimum for non-curbside citizens, and then as your priority towards household waste, and seriously consider that businesses use vouchers and cost the council money.
Right on 5 minutes, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Stephanie, there might be some questions from councillors.
Sure. Where would you like me to stand to take questions?
Come up here so then Councillor Larder and Councillor Inglis can see you. Councillor Hardwick, would you mind putting Councillor Hayes back in there?
Like a barrel girl now.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Packer.
I jump in with the first question, and thanks for the, it's really nice to
He's
get
back.
praise of the waste service out there, because I think it is a wonderful facility. One of the challenges the staff face with the voucher things, of course, is that people bring in way more than they should be bringing in each time. If we go to 4 vouchers with half the amount allowed per voucher, I can see it being a friction point for the staff manning the gate there, saying, well, no, actually, you can't bring this much in this time. You're only allowed to bring in half the amount that you were allowed with your voucher the other day, last year, sorry. So that to me would seem to be, that's always a problem when you're saying, you know, you can't bring this in, and there's tension on the gate between the staff and the people trying to bring in hugely stacked up trailers full of stuff. How do you see that? I mean, that's the main challenge I see. If the volume is retained, but you've got 4 vouchers, it's going to double the amount of potential friction interactions.
Thank you. May I ask if anybody knows if there's a little weighbridge at the Tumut facility like there is at Batlow?
Yes, there is.
Because the voucher at present is 1 cubic metre, and if we go to the 4 vouchers, it would be at half a cubic metre, which is 2 rubbish binfuls. So if it was my responsibility to explain that, I would just have a sign that says half a cubic metre is 2 council rubbish bins and have them sitting there, and anybody with any kind of practicality could see 2 rubbish bins with it that's as big as this on your little trailer or whatever. And the other thing is that the voucher is for half a cubic metre, that the voucher that I'm proposing is for half a cubic metre or 150 kilos. So if there's any question, the little weighbridge is there and you can...
Whichever is the greater or the lesser, you suggest?
It's either or. The Resource Recovery Officer is, in all our discussions, has made it really clear that you can choose 150 kilos or half a cubic metre.
So if someone had stored up all their plastic and it took up 5 trailer loads but only weighed 50 kilos, they could bring... It's always complicated at the interface of waste and the charge.
A lot of time.
Yes, and at the Tumut facilities, there's a brilliant woman who's on her toes. She can tell you anything you want to know about waste and where to put which, and she would manage it really well. The Valmar people who attend the Batlow tip, for instance, it's a much slower moving facility there, and they are always open to speak about what you've got, and we're quite... as citizens, we can say, I think I might have 100 kilos of my plastic bags. Can I go over the weighbridge? So I don't consider that it would be a big task to explain it beyond the first 3 months, because people have to be instructed about where to and no, not this and all that anyway. So yeah, it's a really, really good point that promoting it would be a problem for a while.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you so much. I love the idea of a video irrespective of what the outcome of the voucher system is. I think that part of what we have discussed as a council is that the education part of recycling and getting people to be more aware of their waste is so important. So that to me is a tick automatically. The concern that I have is that the majority of people who have curbside collections aren't going to be interested in 150 kilos because they save their voucher when they're doing a clean up, a clean out, they're doing out the shed. part of what we need to do is encourage people more about the recycling aspects and understanding and even within our fees and charges, it outlines very clearly all of the things that you can take out to a waste centre and not be charged to actually deposit them then. So it's as much about getting people aware of sorting their rubbish. I can see that for people who don't get a curbside service, that it's probably an issue of being able to do it 4 times a year as opposed to 2 and breaking that down. But I can also see that people will definitely, in my opinion, I am basing it on nothing other than human nature, is that they will still try and take 300 kilos of rubbish when they go out there, because if they have a lounge or a chair or 2 tyres or a mattress, this is where the issue. So how do you see that we could deal with people who already have a curbside collection who don't need to reduce it down to 450 kilo lots?
Yes.
But have other household waste that they need to get rid of in larger volume.
So I have horses, and 150 kilos is half a small horse. I can't envisage that any of the things that you mentioned, a lounge, a fridge, like any of those things would be over 150 kilos. 150 kilos is a lot of weight.
It's not just the 150, it's not just the 150 kilos. It actually identifies the things that you can take out with a voucher, which is 1 mattress, or because it's about the bulk as well. So the cubic metre isn't necessarily the same as the weight. So how do we?
You mean, how would you explain that? You can take 150 kilos for your voucher.
No, well, the voucher would entitle you to a queen size mattress, but it won't weigh. It won't be 300 kilos probably, but that's your voucher. So what do you do with those items if you can't take out that cubic metre size?
I might be misunderstanding your question, but you're saying that a person would be cleaning up their place and they want to take something big. That's obviously bigger than 2 rubbish bins full.
It's a mattress.
Yes, there's a big stack of mattresses. That's a good example, the mattress. There would be no problem with them using their voucher for that. How can you see that would be a problem?
But it would be bigger than your half a cubic metre.
Yes. So any voucher entitles you to 150 kilos. So you could take out 2 mattresses for 150 kilos, 3 mattresses for 150 kilos.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I'm listening to both of what you're saying there. I envisage what you're saying is you're utilising the vouchers to mainly waste that goes into a household bin, whereas people in town, they already have a household bin that they use regularly, utilising the vouchers for hard rubbish, I suppose, furniture, beds, etc. Yeah. So there's almost like there's 2 different uses, perhaps and this is something we might need to workshop. Do you envisage that you might have 2 different types of vouchers depending on what sort of ratepayer you are, or perhaps people who are living on a farm who utilise the vouchers for waste every quarter have a separate type of system, so analogous to what they're paying for in town when you have a bin curbside service. You pay your waste charges for that. It'd be obviously different to what you're paying for your curbside services, but would you envisage something like you pay a certain fee to have these vouchers in the future if you wanted 4 per year? Would you see people be willing to have that as a fee on their rates notice if they're taking these bins? And it wouldn't be a big fee, but it would be something that would have to cover the costs, because the issue with the council is that the waste services is not, costs aren't going to be covered. That's the problem that we're having.
Yes, that's a long conversation, which I started. So maybe in the very long term, council will go with you pay for what you put at the tip. And because at the moment, there's curbside people getting vouchers, non-curbside people getting vouchers, and businesses, because they pay rates, they all get vouchers. So I don't want to address that bigger picture. I'm just looking at the interim strategy to get the community on side, and while this big review is taking place, because for the people who want to take out mattresses or furniture, it would be to their great advantage to be able to do that 4 times a year, because you would need to have 2 mattresses and a fridge and whatever to add up to 150 kilos. So at the moment, I think it would get everybody on side.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, it would get everyone on side, but whether it be,
That's questions.
yeah, I thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions?
I have one. Thank you for your presentation. And I think you've looked at a short-term analogy there, but it really is not addressing the longer period. What's your opinion? Because I think you've admitted that yourself. There is a longer story behind this, or a longer solution. And my question to you is, why not go the whole hog in the beginning and educate the people, because the world's changing. We're seeing atolls being produced out of plastic bags. You know, why not just start a user pay situation, and those products that cannot be recycled, well, the user pays. And keep the vouchers for the biodegradable product.
Biodegradable
Or
as in
recyclable products. Of course, mattresses aren't recyclable. In actual fact, they cause a lot of problems with landfill.
correct.
And our charge, the council's charges, unfortunately, like the world around us, charges have gone through the roof. So my question to you is, why not just start the education process now? User pay scenario for the non-recyclable products, the ones that we have to transfer, and we encourage the recyclable products with the 4 voucher or 6 voucher, whatever.
2 points, if I might.
Okay, and then I think we'll draw to a close.
The review that's proposed in today, I expect will take time. And I think it's in that framework that excellent idea will be worked through and addressed. So my concern is that those of us who are non-curbside and we want to do our best responsible thing, if we could be encouraged to participate in this, it would be good. And I think everybody's needs, curbside and non-curbside, should be met just with an interim order that we can go back to our 4 vouchers while this really important review occurs.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you
very much for your time. And
Thank you. So are you going to discuss this now?
yes, yeah, we'll go through a few things, but the petitions come up pretty quickly, so I suggest to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors, for your interest there. Now I'll start the formal part of the meeting. The acknowledgement of country. Snorri Valley's Council proudly acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of this land and water, and pay respects to their elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Member of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snorri Valley's Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks and inappropriate counsels that are made during the course of a meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of their oath or affirmation of office they made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligations of the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. Please ensure mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or on silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted by mobile phones or other electronic devices in the room. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. If you're participating in the meeting from an alternate venue, please enact the evacuation plan for that location if required. Councillors. So we have no apologies today. We have no leave of absence, but we do have 2 requests for remote attendance from Councillor Inglis and Councillor Larter. Moved by Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest. We have 3 of those. The first one is David Sheldon with 11.3. He's declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest and will leave the meeting. We'll leave the meeting, okay. And then we have Councillor Hayes, 10.5. He's declared a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, membership of the Gilmore RFS, Adelong Services Club and Adelong Alive Museum. And then we have
Adelong Community Enterprises.
Adelong Community Enterprises, sorry, Councillor Hayes. And then we have Councillor Wirtz, 12.3. And you have a significant?
Yes.
12.3.
12.2. 12.2. Oh, 12.2.
No, 12.2.
12.2. Local Traffic Committee, and you'll be leaving the room, Councillor Wirtz?
Yes.
Yep. And Councillor Larter, non-significant, non-pecuniary?
Yes, in non-significant, non-pecuniary in relation to 12.2, I own a motor vehicle and drive on council roads. And 12.3 and 12.4 in relation to the aerodrome, I own an aeroplane and use the facilities at the airport.
Thank you, councillors. Moving on to confirmations. Do we have a move for those? We don't need one. Confirmations of minutes. Councillors who have read the minutes, happy to confirm. Councillor Sheldon, seconded Councillor Packard. Any comments? All those in favour? Councillor Inglis has left the room. All those in favour, unanimous. Okay, moving on to correspondence and petitions. 6.1. Yes,
Someone to move with the addition.
an additional recommendation?
No, just in addition to point 4 of the recommendation that is there.
Yep.
And I'll read very slowly for the minute taker. Undertake a resource recovery waste service review in the 2025-26 financial year, which is what is there existing, and to include with a workshop to develop a long-term strategy. So as part of that recovery service review, that there is a workshop to develop the long-term strategy.
Councillor Inglis has returned. Okay, so now we have 5 recommendations.
No, just an addition.
But there are 5.
Yeah, we've done addition.
Yep.
No, that's
part
that
of 5. 4.
part of 4.
Undertake a resource recovery waste service review in the 2025 with a workshop to develop
Long-term strategy.
Okay, do I have a mover for those 5 recommendations? Councillor Thompson, seconded Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, I'd like to thank Stephanie for coming in with the public forum and speaking to us, and why we all understand and agree with many of the principles, including the video, or the concept of doing a video. I think what we need to understand is that for us to change the system at this point, if we're about to embark on our fees and charges, which we've already put out there, we need to be mindful that we can't possibly change that today, but it doesn't stop council in the future and even before next year of being able to actually go in to do the service review, to understand, to look at how it would work, to look at different scenarios. before the next budget. So I think that instead of doing a knee-jerk ad hoc, just changing it now without fully understanding what the implication would be for a lot of curbside, the people who already receive the curbside collections, that may be really unhappy if we reduce these vouchers now. So we just need to be mindful that without fully understanding the implications, it's not always appropriate to just change it without going through the process of the workshop and review. And that's why I move the recommendations as they are, with the addition of holding a workshop and going further drilling down later.
Any other comments, councillors? Councillor Lighter.
Yeah, I'll speak against it, Madam Mayor. I mean, I believe that this is a classic case again of not listening to the community. There's over 400 signatures on this petition, and I'm sure if the petition was circulated within Tumut and Taubingo and other places, that it would have received significant support as well. I mean, even based on this, it's only 30,000. I mean, it could well be less when it's all said and done. I mean, I'd like to know how much it's cost to actually produce this report. I mean, it goes on for ages and ages and ages. I mean, surely, you know, just introducing something as simple as this that can help the community has to be of a significant benefit to them. And you know, all this nonsense and garbage of stopping this, you know, for the sake of 2 vouchers is ridiculous.
Thank you, Councillor Lighter. Any councillors for the recommendations? Councillor Packer?
Just speaking, one of the things, I've had a long association with the waste facility and waste management. Change and then change back is very difficult for the organisation or for the people running it out there to actually implement. So going from 2 back to 4, and then if we have a review and we decide that something else is going to change, it then is creating just an ongoing uncertainty in the people that are implementing it and the public who are coming in. So although I can see the logic behind what was presented to us today in public forum, and I think actually there's some good thinking gone into that and gives us some great ideas to think about. And that doesn't mean that it won't be implemented or talked about or brought in, but just bringing it in now and then potentially reversing it or coming up with some other option just is a little bit of a recipe for friction, ongoing friction, which is not what's needed when you're interfacing with waste and the community.
Any other councillors against?
Well, look, I just think we look at the whole big picture from when it started. I'm not for or against it. I think as soon as we have this review, all the better, because it does put the community at loggerheads with each other. But the thing is, we started with 4. I think it's drifted from where it was meant to go to where it actually is. And I think the review, we've got to bring it back to where it should be. And I believe in the thing, we know our waste is a problem worldwide. So it has to be dealt with. And unfortunately, things like the beds and things, non-recyclable product, there is nothing council can do. There is nothing the world can do about it. The user pays situation is the only way that can put out a level playing field for the stuff that can't be recycled. I think as soon as we get back to that, the better, and have a look at the overall plan where council can make money or recompense its spending. We should actually enhance the community to get involved. Where it's costing us money, if we take the community on the journey and explain why, I think they'll understand, because they face it every day with the cost of living. It's just part of life.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, would you like a right of reply?
Look, just very, very quickly to close debate, Madam Mayor. I think what we need to understand here is that it's not just about it's not as simple as saying we'll go from 2 to 4 vouchers. It's actually reducing what you can take in those 4 vouchers. And this is where the people who are already receiving a curbside collection, it doesn't impact them whether the voucher is 300 or 150, but for them, if they're doing a clean out. So it's not just a case of going from 4 vouchers to 2 vouchers to going back to 4. It's about understanding what those vouchers are doing, what the what the intent of the system is and who's going to benefit. And that can only come through a proper facilitated workshop whereby we understand the ongoing impact. We could change it today and we could then get a petition from other people saying we don't only want the vouchers for 150, because at the moment you can't use more than one voucher at a time. You can't collect your vouchers and take them in and use everything. So that is spread out over the 4. So I just think we need to not just do a knee-jerk reaction without understanding the flow and effects.
Okay, councillors, so we have 5 recommendations there with number 4 having the inclusion of, to include a workshop to develop a long-term strategy. All those in favour? So we have Thompson, Packard, Hayes, Inglis, Hardwick. Words, Sheldon, and again, Sly. Thank you, and thank you. Thank
you.
7.1, mayoral minute. Request for drought natural disaster declaration. So, councillors, I've put in 2 recommendations there to advocate to New South Wales Minister for Agriculture to have the current drought in the Snorri Valleys declared as a natural disaster and facilitate the reinstating of transport subsidies, and collaborate with the National Farmers Federation, New South Wales Farmers Country Women's Association, Canberra Regional Joint Organisation, and the Office of Local Government to form a united approach towards natural disaster declaration for drought. I'd just like to speak of the drought, and we are declared drought in Snorri Valleys Council. We have a lot of people involved in agriculture who are hurting quite badly. And what has come about is we now have regional drought hubs, and they were put in, and drought was taken off the table federally as a natural disaster. This has caused another disaster in the fact that there is very little financial support for people who are willing to so, thank you. And then the second mayoral minute, and you've got a copy in your minutes about is.
Can I just add something?
Yes, I'd love you to.
Look, I think there's very little fodder available now anyway, but what people really needed at the time was a freight subsidy, which they've had in the past, which they're used to, which is effective and we know works. There's not a lot of fodder left, but you know, the freight subsidy for fodder would be great. But at the moment, we could still do with a freight subsidy for agistment, because it's one thing to get your stock away, you've then got to get it back as well. So, you know, and all the time you're away, you're paying, you know, up to $10 a head a week to keep them there. And the biggest cost is transport. So I think that's what we really need to get across to the government, that that's something that works, something that's effective, and something that is needed at the moment.
Madam Mayor, can I just say that thank you for this. Even this morning, the member for Cootamundra was talking, and she has actually spoken with the Premier Minns, and the point that she was making is, even as Councillor Hayes has just identified, is that the majority of the fodder that you do see is actually now going up to those areas that were impacted by the significant floods, and so a lot of any, dare I say, spare, which I don't know that anyone has spare fodder, but is actually going up to help those communities. So what Councillor Hayes has said is so true, is that it's about ensuring that the agistment of those animals that are in this region have the capacity to go and come back, because that's what's going to sustain the industry locally.
And a lot of the beasts do not come back; they get sold while they're up there. The acting general manager and I had the opportunity to speak with the New South Wales Minister for Agriculture, Tara Moriarty, and it was a very, very brief conversation, but she wasn't very sympathetic to the cause of the transport subsidies. So there's that part to it, but certainly drought is a natural disaster, and to not call it as such.
Yeah, I think you've highlighted a big issue there, west of the Great Divide, we've just forgotten. We have, you know, we get impacted by a drought and we're just forgotten.
Thank you, councillors. So we'll take that on board. I would like to mention the Batlow Cider Fest, which was just fantastic. We had some councillors there actually participating on the day, and it was really fantastic. But great committee, great buzz. I think there was 4,000 people who went through. And it was also the day that the Batlow cider reopened as well. So it was a beautiful weather, lots of people with apple beanies on, and brought people from a long, long way away. And that's what we want in Snowy Valleys, is people coming to our beautiful area, celebrating, and also the tourism dollar that it brings with us. Councillor Sheldon.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, don't we have to vote on your recommendations through the letter?
No, it's an hour minute. And then, no, after the papers came out, I wasn't able to add them to the paper, but I'd like to mention 3 people who were acknowledged in the King's Awards on King's birthday weekend. So I think we'll start with Rear Admiral Rachel Durbin. She got a OAM. Now,
Good name.
I thought it was OAM.
But don't believe everything you read in the paper.
Yes, that is true. It was in the paper that I read it. Okay, AM. And this is a girl who went to Chermit High. Her parents, the Clarks, are still in Chermit. And she is the head of Navy engineering in Australia. Like, that's pretty awesome. So congratulations to Rachel. To Owen Fitzgerald, who he, and I must say with his wife, Kathy, worked tirelessly for over 15, if not 20 years to get the rail trail, which is out on the hill, just up there in Tuparumba. A very good example of persistence. So congratulations to Owen for OAM. And then someone who's been helping us a lot, particularly with trying to get Surrey Valley's council towards a constitutional referendum, should we demerge, deciding whether we should demerge, is Brett Whitworth from the Office of Local Government. He's the Deputy Secretary of Office of Local Government. He received the Public Service Award. So to those 3 people, we'll be writing a letter of congratulations from us all. Congratulations. Now we have a notice of motion from Councillor Hayes. It's a notional motion about the impact of the polyphagous shot hole borer, and his recommendation is to write to the Honourable Julie Collins MP, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, advocating for greatest awareness of the polyphagous shot hole borer and funding to support ongoing trial treatments. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Hayes? Seconded by Councillor Packer.
Thank you. This is, I've been to South Africa a couple of times recently, and this is really devastating, Kings Park. And the only way they're actually controlling it is by cutting all the trees down. And if anyone's been to Kings Park, it's changed so much. It would be devastating if this got over to the side of the continent. And I think we should do everything we possibly can to try and avert that. This, to me, I've only read about it and seen firsthand what it can do, but God knows what it could do over on this side of the continent. It could infect, all of our trees. It could infect our softwood plantations. We just need to be able to get the government to understand that this could have a major impact on this community. Now, people come to the Chermit and Tumbarumba area to see the winter leaves. They're the trees that are affected. So it affects, as far as they know, up to 400 species. So it could devastate us. So I think we should do as much as we can, encourage politicians to invest significantly. And maybe the investment could all start at local government level, where every local council, every council on the eastern seaboard could contribute a certain amount towards research, because this potentially is a real problem. You know, this is potentially the foot and mouth disease of the botanical world.
Thank you, councillor Hayes. Anyone like to speak to councillor Sheldon?
I have a question for councillor Hayes. When you sent the article out originally, they couldn't actually say how it was transferred, or in the article, how it was transferred from tree to tree. Has that come along further?
I'm not sure. It's gone to Australia, so
Yeah.
probably good choice. Yeah, on something.
Any other debate? Want the right to reply, councillor Hayes? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Now, we do have an urgent business without notice, and once again, that's from councillor Hayes. And there are 4 recommendations there. That council urgently contact the EPA to.
We might just get that up on the screen.
Unbelievable.
I think,
I've got here, so I'll reword something. That council urgently contact the EPA to express concern and anguish at the local residents who are being impacted by the odour of the Let's Work facility. 2, request the EPA to instruct the operation to provide for testing of possible leachate escaping from the site, and request the EPA instruct the operation to conduct quality testing of the Gilmore Creek at sites below Whiteman Lane and above the confluence of the Sandy Creek, and 4, advocate for compensation for local residents adversely affected by odour from the site.
number 2 should be BORS, Jenny. BORS, BOR.
For testing. Councillor Hayes, I'm happy to accept that.
It's urgent. Thank
We
you.
had, so we've got a seconder.
Thank you. I was contacted by numerous people over the weekend about this, and the response was, well, council approved this in the first place, so we should take some responsibility, and certainly we should make sure that if someone is doing the wrong thing, or if there's a problem there, which there appears to be a very serious problem there, that we act on it, and we represent those people who live in that community, because they are being severely impacted. Now, I regularly drive past that site, and there is a significant odour coming from there. So, you know, we need to be on the front foot with this, and we need to be representing our community and, you know, advocating for them as hard as we can, because this is a serious issue, and we don't know what's buried in that ground, and we don't know what ramifications that will have in the future and for generations to come. So we need to get it right. You know, like there's a problem there now. We don't want that problem to get worse. We want it to be solved as best we can, and if it can't be fixed, the people who live there need to be compensated, because it's just not right. Like Watmans have been there for forever. You know, they were there when there was a flour mill there. Now there's a timber mill, and there's waste facilities and everything. So we've got to really understand that these people are certainly, you know, being impacted very, very severely. And the smell got to Tumut. People in Tumut, the social media lit up.
Councillor Sheldon?
No, it's all right.
Councillor Webb?
I'd just like to say in regards to the tip, I met a guy, I don't know if it's completely different, but I met a guy who actually taps these bores in tips and landfill to take the methane that comes out of the ground and actually burn it for power. And he said he's actually went to Blitz for once, but that was for the sulfur smell, to actually contain or treat the sulfur as it comes out of the ground to basically turn it into CO2. that's a potential avenue where you can actually contain this smell that comes out of the ground, so while simultaneously generating power. That might be a solution that could have potential. Thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a quick comment. I can confirm that council has been on the FPA over the issue. And the current smell is in relation to some equipment failure there at the moment. So the EPA are aware of this stage.
Councillor Packer.
I'm not sure whether it's been. That tip, am I correct? It's meant to be non-putrescible. It's meant to be inert builders type waste and that sort of thing. Is that correct? Why would that then be generating significant amounts of methane that needs to be burnt off if it's taking what's meant to be taking?
Well, good question, Councillor Packer, through you, Madam Mayor. It could be residual methane from previously when there was putrescible waste.
It was never registered for putrescible waste, though.
Okay, then I can't understand why there's methane.
It's corrugated iron doesn't put out methane.
Not no.
Well, it might be.
Councillor Woods,
It might be.
clarification.
Well, I'd assume that anyone with a bullets bin who's ever used a skip bin, it gets pretty much everything from, you know, especially people who are using it for their general waste. You know, it's I did not know that it was only meant to be builder's waste, but
It's meant to be inert, non-putrescible waste.
That's in the open bins, but they also have closed bin. I don't know whether they dispose of that to council or whether it goes into their own landfill.
If I could defer to the.
Through the chair, the type of waste that's going into that facility is obviously licensed by the EPA under their license agreement. It's a scheduled premises. I do understand that some of the material that's going in there is gyprock related, so construction demolition waste, which when it gets moist and it starts to create those types of gases and tends to sulfur. The EPA has been onto it and obviously ordered them to put in place mechanical means in order to address those odour concerns, particularly with gas collection wells, and then obviously burners on site to burn it off. With the malfunction of that equipment, essentially that gas is unable to escape again. So again, I think it's in relation to a lot of that construction demolition waste that's going into the facility. It's related to gyprock and those types of materials.
Any, sorry, Councillor Inglis and Councillor Lana, I can't see you. Do you have any questions?
No, not from my part, Madam Mayor.
Not from my part either, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got the 4 recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Madam Mayor, can I please move that report 11.6, the Willowgabung fire shed report be brought forward from where it is back here on page 131. If we could bring report 11.6 forward, please.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. Thank you. So 11.6. We go by 5 shed.
131.
Page 131 with 5 recommendations there.
Oh, yeah. Thirty-seven.
Adopt as per recommendations, amend the recommendations, or decline.
I'd like to amend it. So,
Putting any of the points in there.
just reading it again. What I'd like to see is a little bit more investigation as to the new site that they're interested in, and see whether we can come to some sort of agreement there. As long as it doesn't cost council any.
Yeah. So to use the $50,000 seed funding.
Yeah.
For further investment.
I've been out there, I drove out of there in a small sedan. I see if somebody's coming very fast that it could be an issue. I can't see that in what sort of truck is in there? Is it a Cat 1, Cat 2? What sort of, you know? It's a 2. So if you're sitting in a Cat 1 or a Cat 2, you can see a fair way. You would also have lights and sirens on. So, obviously.
So can I just clarify now that you're putting through a recommendation to use the $50,000 seed funding.
Yes.
From RFS for further investigation?
Yes.
And so that's
For the Willabagum
for
Road
the
side?
for the Willagum fire shed site.
Can we get that up on the screen?
Yes. Councillor, do you want an amendment to that?
No, I'm just a bit confused by the report, Madam Mayor, as to what the money can be used for. I mean, from what I can establish, the existing facility is in a state of, well, I think the members that use it would say that it's probably not in it's past its use by date. I mean, it seems to me, from what I can read, that there's no doubt that they need another facility. But I think we need to essentially go back to the RFS and see whether that $50,000 could be used in the interim to at least maybe fix some of the issues that are with the existing building to make their life more amenable until there's some resolution about building something new. I mean, it just goes to show how out of touch governments are with communities when they've got $4 million or $3.8 million to build a shed at the airport that they'll likely never use, but the poor buggers that are out there fighting the fires in these remote locations have got the worst of the worst.
No, I'll take that on board. Thank you, Councillor Leiter. So I think this motion that Councillor Hayes has put forward is pretty broad and will allow that to happen. Are you happy? I'll read it out again. To use the $50,000 seed funding for further investigation for Willagum fire shed site. So that sort of like covers what you're saying as well. Sites, the 2 sites. And then that covers covers what you're trying to say as well. Are you? And it's very simple and open then. Happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to support Councillor Hayes' amendment.
Okay, can we go with this and then talk afterwards?
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Okay, so we're moving the motion as up on the board from Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Leiter. Thank you. All those in favour? Oh, no, you speak to it, please, Councillor Hayes. Please.
Look, the people at Willagum have been through hell and back. There's no doubt about that. This facility is, in my opinion, not in such a bad place, but they think they've got a better spot. Anything that keeps the Rural Fire Service volunteers happy and engaged and active is a good thing. So if they can find, they've got the 50K, if they can find the subsequent funding to get themselves a new fire shed into the future, they can exist with this one in the interim. I think, and if it encourages more membership and more activity from the fire brigade, I think it's going to be a good thing.
Cost to council.
And no cost to council.
Councillor Shelby.
My question is understand everything that's been put in front of us. Why does council seal have to be adopted with this? Why is there a council seal? If these guys want an extra 50 grand or whatever we want to call it, why not just let them go ahead and do, they're looking at the funding themselves. Why do we need to get involved?
I think we might defer to you, the Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. The current shed, the current location, there's no formal instrument of agreement between council and the RFS and the landowner for it to be there. So whichever way council goes, if we're going to keep the existing shed in its current location, we need a formal lease. That's why the council seal is required, because we have to use the council seal on leases. And if it was to go to the other location, again, we'd need a lease for it to go in that location, and council seal would be required. So that's the only reason we need a council seal.
Clarification.
Yeah, if it's not on council land and it's these guys.
Not a council asset.
Yeah, it's not a council asset, and we all know things are going to change with RFS and all the rest of it. To me, let's help them as much as we can and not put roadblocks up there with council seals and all the rest of it.
The seal's just a legal requirement for a lease, that's all.
Why do we have to have a lease?
And we have to resolve to use the council seal when we enter into leases. It's just a formality.
Yeah, if we don't have a lease already, why do we need a lease moving forward?
We do need a lease to regulate how RFS, council and the landowner manage the asset.
So, question for the Director of Infrastructure. The motion that we've got up there now to use the $50,000, it's a bit contrary to what you're saying about approve the fixing of the seal. Can that come up, can that 4 and 5 come up as another motion on another day after the investigation has happened?
The motion you've got in front of you now, councillors, officially negates all the other previous recommendations, 1 to 5. You've now got one recommendation in front of you that says to spend 50 grand investigating the Willabaggun site, and that's what
sites.
Your site. Well, it's Willabaggun. There's 2 sites. One site's on Batlow Road, and sorry,
It's got an S on it, hasn't it?
There's two sites. So if you want to resolve that way, then the money is just simply going to be used to do, I guess, feasibility for those sites, and there's no requirement for a council seal. When the feasibility is finished and there's a decision on what site the shed's going to go on, then we come back and we go through pretty much what we've got in front of you.
Okay. Councillor Packer.
A question to
Sure.
with the existing shed, and if a new shed was built, my understanding is either one or both would still vest as councils on it. So it's not that we don't have any interest in them; they will sit on our asset register. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And whether or not sometime in the future they get dealt with differently is something for our political masters rather than us to decide. So one way or the other, we've got skin in the game with this shed.
That's correct, Councillor Packard. And the question is, if a new shed site is decided upon in the new location, then what happens to the old shed? And we've identified in the report, there's costs to that. If the old shed's going to be there's costs involved of getting rid of that shed and making good the existing site. That's a cost. Because of the absence of a lease agreement and the absence of any instrument of agreement, the argument would be who pays for all of that, and guess what? All of that would be council. So that just demonstrates the importance of having agreements, because at the end of the day, there's generally conditions and clauses of what happens to assets. And in this case, there isn't.
the old shed is an asset on somebody's land. I think it's got a shed on it, it's got a tank on it, it's got power to it.
So,
The
So
property
is
owner may want to take it on as a shed, yeah, they may, or they may say get rid of it, which we don't know.
so are you closing the argument, councillor?
Councillor Thompson.
Oh, and I'm sorry, councillor Larder, you're very little up there. We'll just go to councillor Thompson and then to you.
I'm happy for councillor.
Councillor Larder?
Well, look, the only thing I was going to say is that I don't imagine that any new facility is going to be popping up in the next, 24 months. So the only thing that worries me is that we need to make some allowance with all this lease, temporary lease or whatever you want to do, and make sure whatever maintenance issues that are urgent at the existing facility that at least some of that funding is used to rectify those, because we don't want a situation where these men and women that are volunteering have got a substandard, out of date facility. I mean, if it needs work done to it, then and if that $50,000 can somehow work towards that, then I think we should look at that money going there.
So, councillor, we could amend it, use the 50,000 seed funding for further investigation and repairs if needed for the Williga.
If Councillor Hayes is happy with that, I think that would we don't want a situation where there's toilets not working or power, circuit boards are out of date or whatever the case is. I don't know.
Councillor Hayes, are you happy to take that amendment?
It's got a new toilet's just been put in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor,
So in that instance, if we start doing, we then would need the approval for the draft heads of agreement and the lease to be, otherwise we end up in a situation of infrastructure that council, technically if it's an RFS shed, is responsible for, or that we have that connection to. And I go back to the fact that, and I had a quick scan and I can't find it here now, the land that is proposed for the new shed, who owns that land?
So it is in the report, and the private property owner. So on page 134, it doesn't name the property, but it does say that the property owner has been approached, and they are supportive of the shed going on their property.
The only reason I raise that is that we are in a situation where we had to pay Crown Lands, what was it, $25,000 for a little portion of land on the highway to put the new Tumut Plains fire shed on, which I think is being constructed now, which is why there needs to be the agreements. The days of a nod and a wink and a handshake are sort of gone. So we really do need the heads of agreement for between the RFS or the fire shed and council, and for the lease and the seal to be. That's just my understanding of what we have, is that otherwise we just go back to almost.
clarify through the Director of Infrastructure, is there no heads of agreement or lease because it just was missed?
Back in 2002, 2003, when it was constructed, yes, we have nothing on record other than council did. The council, the property owner and the RFS all agreed that it could go in that location. That's it, but there is no other record or instrument of agreement that regulates that. So it's now 2025 and it's that shed is reaching the end of its useful life, and therefore this is why this has come up. In answer to Councillor Thompson's question about whether we should include the leasing component of this in this report. Now, it might be premature until they've decided which site they're going to go on, because we would construct a lease based on the site.
Yeah. Just so people know the context of where Williga is, and you've all driven past it today. But it was really badly affected during the fires. 11 homes were burned, 50 structures, and it's a population of 63 people with an average household of 2.4 people. That meant 41% of the community lost a house. So, apart from anything else, I think this is a community rebuilding exercise for an area that was really bad. Councillor Hayes, do you want to close the debate? Oh, yep.
It doesn't surprise me that we haven't got leases with some of these fire sheds because they've sort of evolved organically. I guarantee you we have some with the other brigades as well. But anyhow, look, I think as Councillor Ham said, the community was very, very badly impacted, and whatever we can do to help them through this rebuilding process, I think is going to be good. There's nothing worse than someone building something for you that you don't really want in a place that you don't really want. So, and if we can work through it with them and make it as easy as possible, I think that will be good for everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Inglis, I can't see you.
Well, my hand's here and it's in the air.
That's right, you're very tiny. Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, thank you, unanimous. And now that motion's off, we'll be able to see you in a big picture again, Councillor Inglis. Sorry about that.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we resume back to the agenda and return to page 38 and the governance 10.1.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seconded. Councillor Hardwick. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So 10.1, page 38, Council Resolution Action Report, June 25. And we have one recommendation there to note the report. Moved by Councillor Sheldon, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, there was only one thing. It's good to see it starting to come in where dates are and what we've followed up. But there is one there about the Adelong Services Club. Completion date was the 30th of the 4th and it's still on the resolution. Yeah, it's complete, but it's still on the resolutions.
Through you,
I thought it was
Madam
complete last month.
Mayor, through you, Madam Mayor, so usually we leave it on there once, and once it's complete, then it sort of pops off, but yeah, so that shouldn't be on there next one.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just Madam Mayor, page 43.
I've got you, Councillor Inglis.
Page 43, 8.1, notice of motion, swimming pools access review. We were to have another workshop, but that ended up having to be canned because the staff member was unwell. So that's still going ahead, is my understanding, at a date yet to be fixed.
Thank you.
The 3rd of July.
July 3rd.
Councillor Inglis.
Yes, I understood, Madam Mayor, that in relation to the expressions of interest for the sale of the vacant block of land, there was to be a report available at this meeting. Now, that's what was said at the last meeting. I just wondered as to what the situation is in relation to those expressions of interest.
Good question. Through the acting general manager.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll find it in the list, but I'm pretty sure
8.3.
it says July, Councillor Inglis. Is it so?
30th of the 7th.
Yeah, 30th of the 7th.
30th of July. Ah, yes, I see that. So we can anticipate that at the next meeting.
Well, no, it'll be the meeting, August meeting, if it's coming on the 30th of July.
Oh, no, so that one.
Will be the August
Oh,
meeting.
that's the end date. Okay.
Yeah, so the July meeting.
3rd of July.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Sheldon, do you want to close the vote? No. Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 10.2, Regions Rising National Summit, 8th of October. Then moved by Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. Or any discussion?
Look, I attended this last year and it was an exceptional conference, and I'd encourage certainly the newer councillors to attend. I think it's a great opportunity.
Councillor Hardwick.
I would like to attend this. Going forward.
I think
So I'll
you'll
put
get
my-
a lot out of it. Yep. So we will amend that to endorse the attendance of councillor Sheldon and councillor Hardwick. You happy with the amendment, councillor Hayes? Yes. Yes, I can. And councillor Hayes, you're happy to close debate there?
Closed.
All those in favour? Ready for councillor Inglis? Councillor Inglis, are you in favour?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All in favour? Done. 10.3, 2025 Integrated Planning and Reporting Suite for adoption, page 52.
I'll move the 3 recommendations, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thompson, seconded councillor Packard, councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Only to say that while there appear to be 3 recommendations there, the documents behind the recommendations are really significant and important. And if the community wants to actually have an understanding of how we're working, because in here it includes things like your fees and charges, the revenue policy, the long-term financial planning, asset management strategy. This is such an important suite of documents as to how we as a council operate and how we as councillors put the information together to enable the staff to actually deliver the plans of which we're approving. So while it may appear to be a nice and easy, and it's been out for public exhibition, this is probably one of the most complex and important suites of documents that we as a council can actually work through. The fees and charges itself, Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if we need to move into committee just so that we can ask some questions in relation to some of these documents. So I'll
Okay,
move.
second. Councillor Sheldon. Okay, continue.
I'm happy in committee. We need to vote on that.
All those in favour? Unanimous. You're against, sorry.
You're allowed to ask questions. You can ask questions without going into committee.
I think you vote. Okay, can I have that vote again? All those in favour of going into committee? We have everyone bar councillor Larder and councillor Hayes.
I'll also against.
And councillor Willis.
Just a clarification, Madam Mayor, the reason I suggested we move into committee is if it ends up in an informal discussion, because within council you can seek a clarification or ask a question, but you can't end up having discussion. So that was the reasoning for committee. But anyway, that's all good.
You've got the numbers, so. Do you want us to start?
No, I'm happy for somebody else to
Councillor
start.
Sheldon.
Madam Mayor, I can foreshadow a notice of motion for the July 2025 meeting, which will read in the form of council form a subcommittee of councillors and staff to prepare a budget action plan to ensure adoption of a balanced budget for 26-27 financial year and beyond. This should include the preparation of an action plan to increase income and implement community legacy programs. The use of the SBC community engagement plan should be used extensively to keep the community informed of the SBC's commitment to a balanced budget future. And then each quarterly budget review contains the report on the achievements of council.
Thank you, councillor.
Can I come back and seek clarification? Yes.
So that's great. Would you like to have the Chief Financial Officer speak to that?
She's there.
She is there.
Would you like to speak to that, CFO?
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. So, sorry, is your question around the long-term financial plan, or is that
more a question of a motion coming forward to form a committee to go through the budgets, so that this time next year we're looking at a more balanced budget than we are this year?
Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. That's not a problem. I think forming a subcommittee shouldn't be seen as a problem. So yeah, that should be good with me.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just in relation to, within particularly the area of the fees and charges, if people take the time to actually read it, there's some significant differences this year as opposed to previous years. One of those is in relation to roadworks and the identification of costings for everything from fixing potholes, fixing roads, the repair of rails, or the security railing on the roads. So I'd just like to seek a clarification, because that's a new introduction. Is that something that's more associated because of the amount of things like the transgrid and the Hume East and West that is now within our local government area? Through you and to whoever.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's the reason that all of those fees and charges in terms of roadworks has now been included. It's to future-proof not just for the community works, but it's also to give clarity around any of our road users and people who may damage our roads from time to time, what the cost is to repair the roads. I'd probably say that it should have been in our fees and charges for a long time, but Link has prompted it to go in that level of detail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And another area, if you go through the fees and charges, there are significant blocks of areas that have TBA to be advised on the pricing. Can I just seek clarification? I know that there was an explanation given earlier, but I think that if anyone in the community is going through this, we need to understand why those charges are appearing as to be advised and haven't actually at this point been.
Madam Councillor Thompson, so just to confirm, the TBAs are statutory fees set by the state government, which haven't been released yet. So once they're released, council will input those into our fees and charges, but they are set. And council
They set as a recommended minimum, recommended maximum, or an absolute, that must be at that level.
it can be a mix, but it's mostly absolute. That's the fee for.
So could we in future have a line rather than TBA just stating state as per state, something sort of to make it clearer that these are not we don't have the ability to vary things there.
It sounds like there's still discussion.
That's right. Yeah, it sounds like we're still
We
thinking.
have a column in the fees and charges with the fee type code. It sort of relates to whether it's a council fee or it's a statutory fee and things like that. So I think you'll find more those things are type A, which is the other statutory. But.
And just one more through you, Madam Mayor. A similar thing in relation to the library fees and charges. Again, they're not fees and charges as set by Snowy Valleys Council. They're set by the regional library. And yeah, so they're not and we collect those on behalf of the library. Yeah.
Councillor Sheldon?
Yes, look, clarification, because as everyone knows, I've been edgy about our finances for quite some time. And sorry?
Let's hope we all are.
And what it does show, and as I've been alluding to since council form, our income streams are drying up. And if you look at the future and the estimates, it's getting worse. And then when you go through the budgets and you look at some of the maintenance and that, they're increasing all the time. And we've really got to show some fiscal restraint in this matter. And it's just somewhere you ask, some of the things that Councillor Thompson has alluded to where the figures aren't there, including some of the budgets like on our playing fields and that we've got this year, but we haven't got next year, or we haven't got following year, or the reduction in these maintenances dropped back quite considerably. And I'm just wondering if I could seek clarification on that.
Through the Chief Financial Officer or the AG?
Right.
Through the director, through the...
Do you have any specific examples? Usually the maintenance is part of the operational plan, so it's broken down into materials and services within each service category.
It was roads was one. or playgrounds where sporting fields. We had a lot of money allocated for this year, but not so much for next year. It nearly dropped by 50%.
Are you referring to the capital works?
Yes.
Program? Oh, okay, so that's different.
I think I showed you some of them earlier on. And then the next one is.
Sorry, so just to clarify, I don't have that open in front of me, but council held a workshop on the capital works program, and each area of works has been just identified over a 10-year period. And obviously we have to allocate funding for that as well. So it's just not a set amount every year. It just depends on what needs upgrade when.
Well, we're going to have a serious look at it as that income stream dries up. From what our anticipated budget is, the income is nowhere near it.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So essentially what's happened is council's emergency operating grants are ceasing as of this financial year. So that's had a huge drop in income. Also what's affected council's position, we've taken a conservative approach to private works as well. So they've been the two major things that have affected council's income for the projected financial year.
And the next thing, probably through General Manager to the CFO, the grant FAGS is coming up very shortly, and with our income streams and that, and I think the local government recommendation is that we have 3 months worth of cash reserves so we can handle our ongoing salaries and things like that. Do we have any idea if FAGS is moving along normally? But it is, I think it's due in 10 days. And how our cash flow system is all up. Our cash flow position, I should say.
Such a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's one cash flow.
So, yes, Chief
For you,
Financial
Madam Mayor. Yes, so we did receive the FAGS grant on the basis of the last year's receipt. It was towards the end of June that we would have received that grant money. So we were expecting that it would be similar this time as well, but we haven't received any confirmation from the funding body, or we haven't seen any documents as such. So so that is something not confirmed with regards to the timing of the funding. But with regards to the cash flow that we have, we do have, so we have redeemed a couple of term deposits, which were due in June. So in order to make some payments around the operational requirements, and it should basically be able to cover the next couple of months operational payments. However, we will look into the complete comprehensive assessment of the restricted, unrestricted cash category towards end of June in next couple of weeks.
Councillor Sheldon.
Again, to the Assistant General Manager, the CFO, the long-term financial position in relation back to the Teggett report, how are we faring with that?
Chief Financial Officer,
through you, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Yes, you're
through you, Madam Mayor. So the long-term financial statements or the long-term financial plan, there has been quite a few movement with regards to the budget submissions when we had gone through with the budget managers for 25-26 financial year. Peter Teggett's report probably would have been prepared prior to what we have gone through for this exercise. So I would assume that that those contingencies or those movements within the budgets wouldn't have been captured. But I haven't really looked into a lot of detail with regards to what is actually moving between the income and expense category and also from the cash flow category. But I can at a high level comment that we have gone through with the fine-tooth comb for the financial year 25-26 budget with some rigor around it, and especially on the expense side.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could call on a report on the comparisons of what the assumptions that came out of Peter Teggett's financial report leading forward for the long-term financial planning, how we're going in meeting those long-term financial commitments.
Acting General Manager.
So the Teggett report, as we'll call it, was the financial sustainability plan for SBC, and we also did the financial sustainability plan for the two councils. So, as the CFO says, that was based on last year's financial data. So we haven't done that comparison on this year. I would say I think it's probably worse this year rather than last financial year.
So it makes it even more important to go back through and make sure we see where we are.
Thank you. Councillors, I'd just like to say these fees and charges, I've contacted all the principals of all the schools in the area just to talk about fees, charges, and more so the booking systems. Why we haven't changed anything for schools at this stage. We're working to be able to get back to schools probably in October, November this year, so that at the beginning of the new school year, we might have maybe different charges, but certainly a different system of how we can book council assets. Because we do have fantastic assets. The council staff do a wonderful job keeping it all nicely kept, and we want our schools to use it, and we want to make it as easy as possible for them. Any more discussion in committee, councillors? Does anyone want to move to, who wants to move?
Madam, sorry, just in relation to the school side, I think it needs to be, we need to really understand, and the community needs to understand that, yes, while it is encouraging that our schools are utilising our facilities, that they are seen as sporting facilities and not playgrounds. So I think that we need to be respectful of all the uses of our sporting fields and sports grounds, and remembering that it is for the wider community as well.
Councillor Thompson, are you happy to move out of committee?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Who was the second? Councillor Hardwick, thank you. All those in favour? So, councillor, anyone want to say anything in debate, or councillor?
No, I'd like to speak again.
Okay.
A lot of comment around how we need to be fiscally responsible and all that sort of thing. CPI is raising it, running about 3%. Inflation's at about 2.3%. And yet some of these fees and charges have gone up more than 10%. Now, as councillors, when we need to be highlighted as to when anything's gone up more than the CPI. We've asked for that and we haven't been told. It's not.
Through the acting general manager.
Yeah.
That's not correct. We did hold a councillor workshop on it, and we did point out the ones that have raised above CPI, and an email that followed.
Okay, all right. So there's significant ones. The waste access charge, which everybody gets charged, it's gone from $68 to $75. Most of the waste charges that I see have gone up by 10%. Now, waste is something that we need to be really, really clear on, because waste is one of the biggest problems of the 21st century, as I highlighted earlier in the meeting. But we cannot afford to keep slugging our ratepayers 10% a year. I sat in this room in 2017 when we actually reduced the waste charges because we had over $1 million sitting in reserves and it was too much. Now we've had $4.3 million to establish voucher. We've got $1.4 million to put fences around waste facilities, and yet we still haven't got a waste system that works properly, and we've got to put the charges up by another 10% and apply for grants. Where are we going wrong? I think it's a major problem, and I don't think that we should be just going, oh yeah, okay, this is the fees and charges. This is a lovely suite of documents. This is really important. We've got to pass it without knowing why.
Director of Infrastructure, do you want to speak on what? No.
What I've said is correct. Through you, Madam Mayor, the General Manager, we did point out the increases in charges at the workshop and to councillors, so we did pass that information on. So
And I guess, Councillor Hayes, all I can say is that's why council will be undertaking a service review into waste. It's going to encompass the vouchers, it's going to include fees. Fees may go up, fees may go down, fees may stay the same, but that's why we need to look at the waste and the resource recovery centres in total. So it can be priced accordingly.
Thank you, I couldn't agree more. We really need it.
Do you want to speak for? Yep.
I'll speak for it, but just sort of responding to Councillor Hayes' thing. Waste is the most vexatious moving target and often imposed on us by state government or the people that charge us for where the waste goes. So, although, and I think it's dreadful that we went from surplus to deficit, but I would say that, you know, when targets are put on us by people in Sydney thinking metropolitan waste streams, and that gets imposed on country councils, and we have to bear the same sort of costs. That's where this ends up. I don't think it's a matter of council trying to extricate more money from our ratepayers, other than to meet the obligations that are dumped on us by the state government through their waste regulation.
Councillor Sheldon?
Yes, look, whilst I agree with Councillor Hayes and everything he said, there's one thing I will say, it's tried to be highlighted for quite some months now, the fiscal position we're in and moving forward. Councillor Thompson's highlighted quite a few times, not today, but at the last meeting also, we're holding workshops and we haven't got the involvement. We need everyone's involvement here because we're looking this year at a $3.2 million deficit. In a couple of years' time, we're looking at a $5 million deficit. We have to act now, and everyone needs to get on board and make some really hard decisions and go through all our services and see where we can save money. That's one of the reasons why I've put that motion forward for next month, that we form a committee and we spend some months going through everything with a fine-tooth comb to come up with some strategies where we can save money and also increase our income. So yes, Councillor Hayes, I do agree with you, but we've got to, I hate to say, we've got to spend more time on the financial position of council.
Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson, do you want to close debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Sheldon, for your comments. I find it really disappointing that we turn it around as if the staff have made these decisions without any input or consultation with us as councillors. We had numerous workshops, we were given every opportunity, the fees and charges were sent out to us, we got to go through them in our time and do what we wanted. And if people choose not to do it, then that's okay, but don't criticise when what the staff are presenting to us is what we have been discussing every step of the way. And I think it's really unfair that we turn it around as if the staff have done this without our input. Because at the end...
Wait a minute. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Councillor Thompson is attacking me. It's not
attacking you,
Yes,
Councillor Hayes.
She's just closing the debate. Maybe if you do that.
Happening on.
Thank you. Quite happy to wrap it. I think it's important that we all understand this is our responsibility. Councillor Sheldon has become the Councillor Livermore of the previous council, where fine-tooth comb, going through finances, looking at this and looking at that. And I think that it's excellent that we have somebody who is that passionate about our finances, because we all accept that we are in a difficult position. We need to make some difficult decisions, and we need to be the ones who are making the resolutions and then respecting that the staff are actually going to endeavour to implement and to guide us. I don't have an accounting background. I don't have a planning background. I don't have an engineering background. I rely on the reports that come to me and to understand that I can talk to the staff or ask for support. So with that, I will close debate. I will unreservedly apologise to Councillor Hayes if he felt that it was a personal attack on him. It wasn't. It was in relation to a level of frustration that we all have a role to play in doing this, and we've been working on it for some time.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have 3 recommendations there. All those in favour? Okay, so we have Thompson, Packard, Hardwick, Works, and. And against, we have Hayes, Inglis, Larter, Sheldon. Thank you. 10.4, making of the 25-26 rates and charges, page 59. And there's ten recommendations there.
Can we seek clarification on the wording of 1 2, please, before
we get started? Yep.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just slight wording change to recommendation number 2. To read, approve the making of rates and charges, comma, and remove and, make and levy the following rates.
So these amendments are made. Now, do I have a mover? Councillor Sheldon, seconded by Councillor Packard. Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, look, just a quick recommendation. This is all state legislation. Is that correct? All these recommendations, most of them,
Yes.
are pursuant to the Local Government Act.
Correct. So this is in accordance with the Section 535 of the Local Government Act. So councils are required to make and levy rates. And what's in here is just what we've adopted, which is in our revenue policy and fees and charges.
And that's because there's been no SRV or anything else added this year.
Correct. It's just the rate piece.
Thank you.
You have a comment? Mr. Sheldon, don't want to close debate. Had it?
Have we?
Yep. All those in favour? Councillor Hayes?
Yes.
Against, okay. All those in favour, Councillor Hayes. Yeah, he had his hand up. 10.5, proposed donations for 25-26, page 65. And we have 4 recommendations there.
Madam Mayor, I just have some slight corrections to recommendation 2 in the table.
Yeah.
So the first one is with the Adelon Community Budgeting, the rates recovery for 25-26. And then at the bottom of that table for the Plymouth Town Band, the amount of 4,733. We move over to page 66 in the table for the Gilmore Hall and Fire Services.
Yep.
The rate is 1,328. And with the Tumut Scout Group, the rates and charges is 1,945. So the total coming to 46,323. Apologies.
Okay, do I have a move of the 4 recommendations? Councillor Sheldon. Seconder, Councillor Hardwick, Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Look, I think item number 3, we also have for Tumut Rugby Club, the Tumut Rugby League Club. Item number 3 is incorrect. Where it says Tumut Rugby Club, it should be Tumut Rugby League.
It's Twickenham, not.
Is it?
Yeah, Twickenham, not Jarrah.
It's just the extra word.
League.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
And the other thing is, because it's annual donations, should we be reviewing them yearly?
So that's what we do.
When does that happen?
Yearly.
Yeah.
Just through you, Madam Mayor, Sheldon, so what council usually does is write to all the groups on the list to reapply, and this report comes to council, which is in
So when did that happen? Yes.
a couple of months ago.
And having talked to a number of committees, they were actually very grateful for the staff and how it was handled and that they were informed. Councillor Lana.
I suppose it's in this term of council.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Lana.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question about the water in relation to us giving it to those organisations, which is a good thing. But I had a question raised to me by a former staff member and board member of Snowy Works that there was a hard water stand put in near the dump point that was generating wastewater from that facility there that was meant to be used for this type of activity, but seems to be redundant. And the water's been taken actually from the hard stand down near the river. Would it not be better to exercise the use of that wastewater from the plant if it isn't being used? I'm not suggesting it's not, but maybe we could clarify it.
Director of Infrastructure?
There'd be light.
Yeah, I can look into that for you, councillor. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, that's
Sounds like a
something
good
we
clarification
can look
to have.
into.
Councillor Lara. Okay, any other comments? Discussion? Closing of debate, Councillor Sheldon? All good? All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay. 10.6, establishment of the Avalon Flood Risk Management Committee. Those 5 recommendations to be moved by Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Hardwick.
I'd just like to add with 4, I'd like the opportunity to sit on this, and I think Councillor Hardwick also.
You happy with that, Councillor Hardwick? Thank you, guys. Well done. So the recommendation where it says appoint 2 councillors, we're going to amend that to Councillor Hayes and Hardwick. Okay, councillors. No other, yes, councillor.
Just a question. Does this have a fixed time? Is it? It's not something which is going to run indefinitely. Should it have a finish by date or something clarifying that it winds up after?
I imagine it'll be like the other flood studies. Once it's presented to council, we adopt it and then goes from there.
Through the chair, there's a memorandum of understanding between us and the department, which ascertains the timeframes that are involved in that. It's generally sort of between 12 and 18 months.
Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillor. 10.7, request for funds transfer for toy library reserves. 1 recommendation there. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. All those, any discussion?
We should have spent the money.
What are we doing?
I know, we're talking, we haven't got the money and then we have to hand some back.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
Happen.
Yeah. We can spend a lot in 5 days.
It's not order enough Tonka trucks.
Chief Financial Officer, we do have to hand this money back now?
Oh, that's true. Yes, I think that's all.
No, more acting general managers, sorry. CFO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, unfortunately, that's in the agreement that council signed, but yeah, I'm sure it's something that we can talk
Keep it
about
on next time.
next time.
Through the key.
Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Statements at 10.8, statements of investments, page 49. Councillor Packard, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Packard? Councillor Sheldon, did you want to say anything?
I just noticed it's like the economy generally, it's starting to tighten up most significantly, and it just goes back to our budgets and all the rest of it and our cash flows and everything. We should be very cognizant of the fact that we really have to start watching our pennies, because the horizon is not looking good for most regional rural councils. I'm not picking us out, but I believe we should be looking at ourselves as a standalone council. And we should be very wary of that fact that some of those funds look as if they're actually dropping a little bit.
Councillor Woods.
Yeah, just given the probably impending interest rate, council to be pertinent to try and maximise the sum of deposits that we have. With the CFO, I'd like to speak on that. About yeah, perhaps just trying to make the most of what
CFO.
rates are available.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, we do. Whenever we have the term deposits due for maturity, we do go through the process of the high interest rates, financial institutions, and we do actually go through the option where we have higher, longer term period as opposed to the high interest rate. So it's just finding the right balance. Sometimes if we do select the high interest with a shorter time frame, and we do select the other option depending on the policy requirement. So in the recent times that we have renewed the term deposits, or where we have redeemed, it has actually been the focus that we lock in for more than 12 months. So it shows up on the non-current investments category, and it does actually then give us a position where the interest rates are dropping down, then we're actually locked in for that interest rate. So it might show up as we are dropping down compared to the previous interest rates, but longer term, we have better savings on that side.
Question?
Yes, with to the General Manager, to the CFO, with the auditor's recent visit or current visit, have they made any comments on these long-term investments or the investments?
They have made couple of through you, Madam Mayor. They have made couple of commentaries around the cash position for the councils and how that would look like for the restricted and unrestricted cash category. They have also mentioned around the going concern of the council, which is usual process for the financial statements, and we do have to go through each year annually, and essentially they would like to drill down into a lot more detail for the final audit once the cash flow position is available for as of 30th of June.
I look forward to the report.
Thank you. Councillor Lada.
Just given the comments from Councillor Hayes regarding one of those previous financial reports, when are we going to contact the Premier or the local government minister and say to them that we are really in an unsustainable, unfinancial position? And this isn't just our council, obviously, it's the majority of regional councils. I mean, when is somebody going to put their hand up and acknowledge that this whole thing is a basket case? And sharpening the pencils and, you know, taking $1,000 off the sports club isn't going to make any bloody difference at all to what's going on here. I mean, it's just completely outrageous. I mean, everything's tightening up. You know, the income streams from the investments will tighten up. I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse. And the reality is, you know, if this was a business, it would have been shut down years ago.
So, Councillor Lada, I will say the Canberra Joint Organisation got together recently in Parliament House, and this was a big topic of conversation. I do recommend everyone to read the Auditor General's report, the New South Wales one, and the big thing that came out to me was in rural New South Wales, there are 484,000 people. That's it. And he said that very much that it's those 484,000 people that are being badly impacted by other decisions being made, not helping the rural people. So you're very on topic.
West of the Great Divide.
West of the Great Divide. I did think it was including Wagga and Auburn, but it's not. It's the rural county. So thank you. Okay, so statement of investments. We're closing debate.
Yeah.
Closed. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 11.1 multi-purpose and evacuation centre project update, June 2025, page 84. There are two recommendations there.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would recommend a slight wording change to recommend that council call for expressions of interest.
I'm sorry, I can't hear that.
So that is the recommendation number 2, to make a change, say, instead of an expression of interest, say call for an expression of interest.
Thank you.
Expressions of interest.
So council call for expression.
Just so it flows a bit better.
Yep. Okay. Do I have a mover? Councillor Packard, Councillor Woods, Councillor Packard.
No, I just think this is the next step, the next logical step. I would ask, is the request to the planning, the Southern Regional Planning Board going to delay this process at all? Would that cause any hold-ups?
I'm just wondering whether we get an explanation about what happened the other day with the Southern.
Through the chair, so the Southern Region Planning Panel obviously met on the 11th of June to hear not only from the applicant in terms of the project design and also the assessment of that application, but the panel reserved providing a decision on the day. They obviously deliberated afterwards, and I think it was about a day or two ago now, they've communicated via the planning portal that's now been deferred, pending additional information being submitted from the applicant. There's a supplementary report that's required to be prepared by Council's independent planner, which will be forwarded back to the panel, and they'll make a decision following that submission.
So we had a motion to have an extraordinary meeting on the 30th of July that needs to be rescinded.
That's correct.
Yeah. And can I just say thank you to the staff, but also all the members of public for and against who just put forward so many excellent presentations on the day with a lot of respect. I really appreciated that. Okay, Councillor Packer, Councillor Sheldon.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of Community Corporate Development. Although the email that she sent out, I think it was yesterday, referred to a decision on the 24th, can you see that occurring from the Southern Regional Panel? And to the Mayor, should we still proceed with the expression of interest or wait until after we've received a decision from Southern Regional Planning Portal?
Through the chair, there is timeframes that have been put around the request for additional information. Those timeframes are, in my opinion, fairly tight, but I believe that it is achievable. Council's project team is working towards finalising that information at the moment, and Council's independent planner is aware of the timeframes when that information has to be submitted and when he has to finalise his report. So I think it is achievable to get to obviously adhere to those dates. But look, there's an entirely separate matter in relation to the expressions of interest.
Councillor Packard and Councillor Sheldon, would you be happy to move a third recommendation, remove the need for an extraordinary meeting on the 30th of July?
Councillor Woods.
I beg your pardon.
I raised it earlier on, but
Yeah, actually, I think that'd be an excellent thing to do.
Move that for an extraordinary meeting on the 30th of July.
This council meeting.
Remove the need for an extraordinary meeting on the 30th of July.
And
31st.
just think, could we amend number 2 there to say if and when approval is given by the Southern Regional Planning, then an expression of interest be called for expressions of interest be called, rather than going out
beforehand.
It'd only be a matter of a couple of weeks delay.
With the
Director of, worry about the
Crystal
timeline,
ball.
do that.
It'll take some time to get the
We put together.
I'm just worried, so the reason behind that is if we did happen to put it out and then get it not be approved, organisations and we could have put in effort.
Look, you could put their call for an expression of interest for the manager, subject to the development.
That's what
Yeah, I think that's, we don't want to make them do a lot of work.
we don't make that.
That gives us the green light to proceed if the DA is approved on the 25th of June.
Because they could come back with conditions of the DA?
Yeah.
Which would then
it feels
also-
like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So they happen.
Okay, so councillors, any other discussion? Yes, councillor Inglis.
Yes, Madam Mayor, reading through the document, I note under the heading communications, it says multi-purpose centre operational business plan. The document that we have been provided by the consultant is an operational plan. It is not a business plan, nor does he call it a business plan. There is reference to some business components, but it's not within the bull's roar of being a proper business plan. When are we going to get a business plan which can be made available to council and the community?
To the acting general manager.
That is the business plan.
Yeah, so councillor Inglis, that's okay. We can take away that word sort of business in that heading. I think you're referring to page 87. But that is the operational plan of how the centre is going to run that's been provided to council.
Is it acknowledged that it is not a business plan?
Correct. It's an operational plan for the running of the centre. So I'm happy to take out that word from the heading.
Thank you. And part B of my inquiry, what's happening with the business plan? When are we likely to see that?
So, through you, Madam Councillor, my understanding is we're not pursuing a business plan as such. The whole idea around the operating plan was to look at the income and expenditure and then to decide which method would be best for council and how the facility is going to be run.
We were told that this matter would not go to tender, this project would not go to tender until we had a business plan which was adopted by council. Has that been abandoned?
That wasn't my understanding. Council's always spoken about an operational model for the centre, not business plan.
I think you'll find that it's been referred to at many meetings as a business plan being required, and it is required, and it's been raised by the community as well as councillors at very many meetings, including I was unable to attend, but I've listened to it, including the meeting with the Regional Planning Authority, that there was no business plan. It wasn't then suggested at that meeting by anyone representing council that the concept of a business plan had been abandoned.
People may be calling it a business plan in the community and councils, but council's intention was to always have it for an operational plan of how the facility should run.
So the operational plan is as good as it gets, and there will be no business plan in respect of this project. Is that the situation?
Yes, so council's intent is to pursue the operational plan for the running of the centre.
You see, the reason I raise this
Councillor Inglis, this is the last question. Thank you.
I beg your pardon?
This is your last question on this topic.
Oh, yes, I'm just going to explain, and I won't take any further.
Thank you.
But when the application was made for this grant to support this project, a business plan had to be disclosed. And I've seen the document, and the business plan indicated that it was going to cost $200,000 to $300,000 a year for the first 2 years to run this facility, and that it would be financed by council. Now, is that business plan correct, or is it no longer relevant?
Through Madam Mayor, there's been various versions of the multi-purpose evacuation centre over the years. This project has been considered by council and the community for some time. So I think what you're referring to is possibly a previous business plan. I think it was proposed down on the bull paddock and it might have included an aquatic centre and things like that. So the one before you today is the operational plan. That's for the current centre that's being proposed by council. So not previous ones that's happened in the past. As I said, this project has been around for some time, but this is the current version today.
Thank you, councillor Inglis.
Thank you.
think councillor Thompson, you wanted first, no?
No.
Oh, it's councillor Packer.
I'll wait to
Oh,
close.
no,
I'll wait
close
to close
debate.
the vote.
Yeah, okay, councillor Sheldon.
Listen to what everyone said, but the recommendations do not say to adopt this plan at the back. Should it actually say the council, or should there not be a recommendation in one of council's papers that we actually adopt a business plan or an operational plan, because it is not saying that in these recommendations. It says to note the multi-purpose update and call for an expression. It says nothing about adopting the business plan or operational plan.
Closes.
I'd like to say, it does say in the multi-purpose centre operational business plan,
But not in
council workshop was held.
the recommendations.
Right.
Not there.
You could adjust, I'm just saying that it is saying here what the management plan or management agreement would do as opposed to the council.
Yeah, so my understanding, this is like an operational plan for how it's going to run. In my opinion, it's not required to be adopted by council. This is just the draft, what's proposed. We won't know the final figures until the expressions of interest comes back. But that's the next step.
Okay,
I could make a clarification for you that the experience for the management, the recommended management model, if that makes it any clearer.
I'm just looking at the recommendations,
Yeah.
1 and 2.
So it's call for an expression of interest, we call for a management agreement operating option for the multi-purpose centre, and we've added in subject to the development application be approved. The only improvement I could make to that is the consultant made a recommendation as to what the preferred operating model was and the option was, which was presented to councils at the workshop. I would only suggest that you could add in there the expression of interest is called for the management agreement for the preferred operating option for the multi-purpose centre subject to development application being.
Suppose I'm splitting hairs. We just haven't adopted this plan. That's all I'm saying. And
you can't.
The acting general manager's explained it to me.
We can't adopt it because it's going out.
Yeah, that's right. And so when we bring the EOI back with, let's say, an operator who's going to operate the facility as per the preferred operating model recommended by the consultant, that's when we'd ask council to adopt it.
So Councillor Inglis's statements are all relevant also.
I think we're getting confused between a business plan and an operating agreement.
Yeah, I think so too. We might, this is noted in the report, but we are now noting that we've got a confusion there that we need to work on, possibly in another workshop. So councillor councillor Thompson?
Just really quickly, the workshop, we looked at the 3 options of how this could be managed, and I think going out with the expression of interest is purely asking people or a group or an organisation that may be interested in managing it to tell us how they could do it. And so while the workshop and the presenter presented us with the options and the different scenarios, I think without being too prescriptive, we're giving people an opportunity to come to us with their ideas, not telling them exactly how they're going to do it.
Councillor Packer, would you like to close?
Well, I was going to say many of those things. It's very, like, we'll close it if it's possible.
Sorry, councillor Larder, just very quickly.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I was just going to make the point and ask if we could clarify it. I think Councillor Inglis is right if I understand what he's saying, that the agreement that was entered into with the government or parties in relation to how we proceed on this, regardless of time and circumstances, shouldn't be altered unless it's been agreed to or varied. So, I mean, whatever it says in those initial documents as to what our obligations are, we should be fulfilling them. And if it says that we need a business plan, then we must do that. I don't know how we can change it.
Thank you, councillor Larder. Councillor Packer.
Well, just to close it, it's premature for us to say that we can develop a business plan because we don't know what the operating structure of the organisation could be. It could be a not-for-profit, comes back to us and says, we think we can do it this way. It could be, there might be a number of business people who say, you know, we could do it. The club Tumut might come and say, we could run it this way, or heaven forbid, Montreal Community Theatre might say we want to take on basketball court.
Need something else to do.
That's right. So I just think that I agree, having a business plan that we can see is going to make the building viable and sustainable is going to be really important, but we can't do it yet.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we have 3 recommendations now. I'm going to read them as much as I can. Note the multi-purpose and evacuation centre project update June 25 report and call for an expression of interest for management agreement operating option for the multi-purpose centre subject to the DA being approved. And 3, remove the need for an extraordinary meeting on July the 31st, 2025. Councillors, all those in favour? Okay, so we have Packard, Lata, Hardwick, Works, Hayes, Ham. And against, we've got Inglis, Sheldon and Thompson. Thank you. Good debate, guys. Okay, HumeLink 11.2, HumeLink project update number 3, page 90. Councillor Hayes is moved, seconded by Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Hayes.
Well, as disturbed as I am by the infrastructure that's going in and the lot on the landscape, I hope that community organisations take opportunity to avail themselves of the funds they put up for social licence, and I hope that HumeLink or whoever is advising them sees the need that to raise the amount of funds available, because I think it's insufficient for the amount of disturbance they're going to put in our community and the ongoing lot on the landscape. I've been seeing considerable activity through Vizzy and Gilmore Valley as I drive to and from Tumut, from Adelaide. And I also see what I consider a wicked waste of money with their traffic control when there's nothing happening. And I don't see any need for that. And I think if they could save some money on some of their own internals, they could put more money into the community. But to have traffic lights when there's nothing happening is overkill, I think. So I'd ask them to delve a little bit deep and do a few audits on what they're doing, and maybe they can make some savings and put some more money into the community, because we're going to need it, I think, after people see these towers go up.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillors, I will just say that with the general manager, the general manager and 5 other mayors all went to speak to to Minister Penny Sharp about the councils all getting the same payment as landholders are with this New South Wales strategic benefit payments. That is 10 kilometres, $10,000 per kilometre for at least 20 years. So that Councillor Hayes makes a very good point, which I'm very aware of, is we've got 2 years of construction. Some of that's going to be positive, some of it's going to be negative. We're going to try and make it as positive as possible to help our community. But after they leave, we are going to have enormous power lines. I don't think people realise how big they are and what a difference they are going to make in our community. And we need an ongoing legacy council, because we are losing quite a bit in visual impact. So just so you know and we've now asked for all the mayors have all asked to meet with Brett Redmond, the CEO of Transgrid. We're hoping to speak with Councillor Hayes, Councillor Thompson, and I are going to try and speak with the Commissioner Tony Matt. Is that on Monday? So I just think it's important the community know that we are really trying to agitate for a better deal for our area. Councillors, anything else to say? Councillor Sheldon.
Well, I think you guys have got a very good argument, considering, as I pointed out, the Hume we've got 40% of their infrastructure is on Snowy Valley's land, and we're getting diddly squat in comparison to the other people. And all it really is, and I don't care who hears me, it's shut up money. It's not really a legacy at all.
Well, it is a legacy, just to close, it is a legacy, and it's an unfortunate one.
Councillor Inglis?
Yes, I just have a question that I raised with both yourself and the acting general manager concerning the maintenance contract. At the BUC meeting on Sunday, a council representative and the representative from Hume West, who was very happy, indicated that they were close to reaching a road maintenance agreement. We as councillors know very little about that in terms of its terms, and I think we should. Firstly, can I observe that there's no point having an agreement with Hume West unless you had the same agreement with Hume East. But what I'd like to know is, for how long is the agreement? It says it's a monthly fee. But is that over 12 months, 2 years, 3 years? How are we going to gauge whether or not the monthly payments actually meet the actual cost of repairing the damage? Does it relate to roads only, or does it relate to infrastructure such as a bridge? They wipe out a bridge, that could be millions of dollars. We don't know anything about that. And the other thing that really concerns me is that if there's a contract with council to make good on their behalf, there is no incentive on either Hume or Transgrid to look after the roads and the infrastructure. I wonder about the wisdom of this concept, and I'd like the questions that I've just raised answered, please.
To the Director of Infrastructure, we spoke earlier on about this, Councillor Inglis, but Councillor...
Well, not in meeting.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, the road maintenance agreement that we've proposing to enter into with Hume West will be exactly the same agreement that we would enter into Hume East in terms of its terms and conditions, and it's also very similar to the agreement we've already entered into with Transgrid for Elliott Way and Snowy Hydro. It's the same agreement. We have a standard agreement that has standard terms and conditions. The one with Hume West, who will be using a much bigger network of roads than East, has been determined the monthly payment to council, which is, it is commercial in confidence, but it is around $75,000 a month, is for what we believe enough money to cover the maintenance of the road network that Hume West or UGL will be utilising for the works. Remember, this is on top of the already road maintenance funds that we have allocated to maintain our road network. So this is on top of that. Hume East is also a much smaller portion of the network. So therefore, on a pro rata basis, their monthly contribution is less. It will be for 2 years, and it can be extended on a month-to-month basis if the project goes longer than the forecast 2 years. So it is agreed, and it's written into the agreement, that it can be extended by mutual agreement by both parties month to month or for any period of time if there are delays to the project. It also states that if there is adverse impacts on our roads, and I'll just clarify too, bridges are exempt from this agreement, it's roads only. So if they do wipe out a bridge, they will be paying for wiping out a bridge. And if they do adverse damage to our road infrastructure, i.e. more than what is just what we call wear and tear by heavy vehicles, i.e. they come along and they wipe out an entire road safety barrier or pedestrian refuge or whatever it is with a large vehicle, that is on top of the payments, monthly payments, that would be, the council is requesting for this. So there are those situations which do occur from time to time where their large vehicles may do additional damage to our road network beyond general wear and tear. And there's provision in the in the road maintenance agreement, for those anomalies in the road network. So, and I believe the general managers indicated to the councillors that we're happy to bring that agreement to council once it's finalised, to note.
Thank you.
Just one more question. You're confident that you've done modelling and that $75,000 a month will be adequate?
Yeah, that is commercial in confidence information at this stage.
Well, assuming it's something like that.
Yeah, it's around in the order of that, that's right. So yes, we have done modelling on that, and it is based on what we currently spend on road maintenance for that road network.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, Councillor Inglis referred to the Buck meeting in Batlow last Sunday, and I think with the report that we have before us and understanding that the Transgrid HumeLink projects were beyond our control, we didn't get to say yes or no to them. I think what's really important, whether it's this project, whether it's Snowy 2.0, is that I believe that what we need to do in the future is that we've missed the National General Assembly this year, but we do have the New South Wales local government coming up. We need to be saying to state and federal politicians, when they decide to actually have approve a development, it's not only about the condition of our roads, it's about the traffic movements. It's the traffic movements and the safe use of our roads, which is being impacted significantly. It's not just about the tar and the guardrails and the bridges. It's about how many vehicles, what speed are those vehicles going. And I think that we as a council need to be putting that forward so that state and federal governments understand it's not just about a bit of bitumen and fixing a pothole. It's dangerous to be travelling on our roads sometimes with the traffic that we're contending with.
I think you highlighted that, Madam Mayor, when we went on timber, softwoods industry, how many movements per hour or whatever that camp's going to create along that road.
So,
He's still Councillor Hayes.
Councillor Inglis, and that was good discussion. So, yes. Hayes. Councillor Hayes, would you like to close?
Yes.
All those in favour for noting the report? That unanimous, Councillor Sheldon?
No.
Against Councillor Sheldon. Okay, now we're going to 11.3, proposed boundary adjustments, subdivision 170, Gandra Road.
I'm out of here.
Councillor Sheldon,
No, well, I just need to close the windows.
Yeah, no, it's not cold. And Councillor Hayes has left the room. With a glass of water, please.
Councillor Hayes left the room for the.
No. Councillor Thompson. So councillors, today we had Mick Brace speak to this 11.3. We had one recommendation. There is a lot to that one recommendation. Do I have a mover?
You do.
Councillor Packer, thank you. And a seconder.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Woods. Councillor Packer.
All right, so in these matters, voting against the recommendation of council staff, really not talking through the issues too much, is fraught with challenges. So I would commend that we either vote for the recommendation or delay to seek further clarification if it needs to be, but urge not to to overturn it and completely reject staff. That will lead us down a more dangerous path than either going with the staff recommendation or seeking further information. I note that we have been provided with further information today, which for my part makes me comfortable to move.
I'd like to agree with what you're saying, that obviously going against the recommendation of the council would be but I think clarification would be needed, especially after talking to Grace Surveying and the suggestion that there was two the ability to build two dwellings on the subdivision, and that's what he was saying. The surveyor said that, and I'd just like to see clarification.
That'd be great.
What he was referring to, whether there was actually two multiple dwellings, because in the clause 4.2c it says that there would be no change to any amount of dwellings that were able to be built on the land. If the subdivision is into two lots and there's two dwellings on there, I assume that there would be no issue. But if there is only one dwelling or only the ability to build one dwelling on that property, then I can see where it would fall short of the LEP. But I'd just like to see clarification, because from what the surveyors were saying, he said that there was an annexation of a earlier lot up on the north side of the property, and that had I can't remember what the terminology of it is, possession of title. Right.
Was that a concessional allotment?
On a concessional allotment. So I'm not too sure what all this refers to, whether I don't really want to vote on that before.
Yeah, well, I think we've got the Director of Community Corporate. He will speak on that.
Through the chair, there's two components to this application. So essentially, there's no provisions in the LEP which permit the type of developments occurring beyond the use of clause 4.2c. Now, the use of clause 4.2c is only enacted if there's a boundary adjustment being proposed. Now, in terms of the definition of a boundary adjustment, it's really instructive to have a look at the case law around this. There is a case out there called Johnson versus Coffs Harbour Council, 2018, which is almost identical to this proposal. Almost identical in the nature, the scale, the terms, everything. And that provides instructive information in how you interpret what an actual boundary adjustment is. Now, we've received legal advice around this. The legal advice has confirmed council's position, council staff's position. In terms of the dwelling entitlements, we also asked the legal advisors to have a look at the dwelling entitlements as well. There is one dwelling entitlement on the land, subject to council consent, but the second one relates back to the residual lot also getting a dwelling entitlement as well. Council's lawyers and council staff have not been able to establish that under both the current and the former LEPs, dating back to 1990.
Can I just ask a question? Can you see, I'm very aware this is someone's place, they're trying to subdivide it for a very good family reason. Is there another way around it?
If the applicant was to seek to subdivide the land for the purpose of agriculture, you can do that for any size. But when there's dwelling entitlements involved, it has to either meet the minimum lot size or it has to use correctly clause 4.2c.
Councillor Hardwick.
Yeah, I'll just have a question. The surveyor suggested that 4.2c has been used maybe a dozen times in cases similar to this. Can we get clarification as to why he might believe that has happened in the past and the council has set precedents here? And can we get the clarification as to why that's not the case?
Through the chair, can I just make it really clear that in terms of precedents, each site's dealt with on its merits. So you have to deal with the applications before you. And whether council staff have considered these matters in the past and considered them and recommended them to council for refusal, and the council approved it, doesn't put any weight on the council to make a decision in a certain way based on previous decisions. You've got to deal with it on the merits of this application itself.
doesn't that defeat your case study argument then?
Through the chair, no. So the case law that has been introduced, which I've brought to this meeting, hasn't been actually produced to previous meetings. There's 2 other case law that has been. Case law that's been introduced this time has not been introduced previously.
Given that the case law was from a different shire and this was from Shire, these prior 12 or dozen 4.2C uses of 4.2C, wouldn't that mean that, I mean, obviously the law might be obviously take precedent, but it would assume you would use those as an inference as well.
Through the chair, it does. So what that case law actually does is it provides principles around the way in which clauses can be interpreted. It provides interpretations around definitions in statutory definitions within the LEP. It also provides information around the different merits of different proposals and how that applies in this case, which has all been provided in that legal advice that's been presented here today.
Without closing debate, can I ask a question?
Yes.
For discussion.
Yeah, go on.
Are you aware of the precedent-setting decisions to which Sir Grace that I has referred to today? And if so, were they made at a time when when there was that gap in the legislative or our LEP, when he was referred to where the set was called up rather than the LEP clause? Because if it's a different situation, then it doesn't set a precedent. I don't know if I'm making the question clear.
Through the chair, as I said, in terms of planning, in terms of the realms of planning, precedents, each site is dealt with on its merits. The merits of the case before council this evening is what council should be making the decision on.
May I speak, Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councillor.
Given the fact that there's been advice obtained from not one but 2 legal firms, and that is that the decision of the staff is the correct one, and that each application must be dealt with on its merits. I'm just wondering I fail to see why deferring a decision is going to in any way affect the final determination. If we've been given advice, don't we need to act upon it? And when I say that, I mean legal advice.
Councillor Inglis, would you like to speak to that?
Through the chair, the legal advice has been obtained in order to clarify council's position on it, and obviously to give you a better position in terms of being able to make a decision based on the application before you. That legal advice is in relation to this application. The previous legal advice that we've got from a separate law firm, again confirmed council's interpretation of the provisions, but it was in relation to a separate matter. But it more broadly spoke about clause 4.2C, it was in relation to a separate proposal.
Thank you.
Councillor Hayes.
The reason why some of the precedents have been set was because they made sense. They made sense for the community and they made sense in the areas that they were subdivided in. And some of them are recent. Not all of them made sense. But here we've got a farmer who's looking to get his ducks lined up for succession planning. It's in an area that is quite heavily subdivided and there are lots of residences around. Just look across the creek. So, you know, it's not unusual for that area. So the actual idea of the LEP for the Shire, which is to maintain agricultural land for large scale farming in blocks of 150 hectares, is not really relevant in this area, which highlights the fact that we just need a new LEP, for God's sake. We've sat on our hands forever. And as a council and as councillors, we need to move. We need to move to change things, because if this property had been this side of Laurel Hill, it would be hunky-dory because the Tumbarumba LEP would apply.
Is that correct, councillor Harms?
Through the chair, the minimum lot size, it varies in unit, but the overall in the RU1 is about 150 hectares. Under the Tumbarumba LEP, again, it varies, but the majority of the RU1 land is 40 hectares.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for the purpose of a dwelling.
So one would have and one wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So
one still wouldn't have met
But they could have changed the line and made it 40 hectares.
and 40. So
There's the frustration.
yeah, there is a frustration there, and I can understand the frustration there. And look, to me, this makes sense. Might be legal, but it makes sense.
Okay, so.
Sorry.
Councillor Larder.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to back up essentially what Councillor Hayes has said. At the end of the day, I still think it's open to council to go the other way. I mean, you know, when you look at these two lots, I mean, essentially you've got two housing entitlements, one which will be on a very small parcel of land and virtually have no prospect of being able to be used as a combination lot, if that's how you want to determine it, to have farming practices and a home. But I think, you know, what the proposal does is essentially allows two people the opportunity to have that ability to actually farm and coexist on their property. In fact, and the legal advice, you know, at 21, next steps, it says the proposed subdivision plan is not a boundary adjustment within clause 4.2C of the LEP.
Sorry, that's confidential, councillor Larder. Thank you.
Well, at the
Was
end
it
of the day,
explained to you?
it says that council's open to determine the application, and that's correct. We are.
That's why it's before us.
So, I mean, I think provided that those issues are tidied up around the DCP, that the council has identified in relation to moving forward, then, you know, I don't see any reason to stop it.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The concern that I have is if we just continually go, we'll pay for the legal advice, but we're just going to ignore it anyway. We have staff who have qualifications, who have university degrees as the planners and everything. We don't have that knowledge and ability. We're basing a lot of our decision probably on emotion or whether we know them or whether we wanted to, you know, make it easier for them. I understand all of that, but I also understand that there's a framework that we're trying to work within. And I know that possibly one of the most recent ones that we did, we actually went out on site, we saw it, we looked at it. It made sense because it was just a portion, but it wasn't for that portion to be completely taken by something else. And it just concerns me that at this point, this is what is required within the northern side of our local government area, and why are we buying or spending money on legal advice and seeking the input and everything and paying expert staff just to ignore it all? I don't know.
Thank you. Councillor Packard, you're closing.
Closed debate. I mean, the rules in the LEP may not any longer be great or relevant, but they nevertheless are the rules that are in the LEP. And so if council chooses to vote against what we say are our rules for how things are being done, then we immediately open ourselves up for challenge. The fact that we've also then had two lots of legal advice and precedent from other cases that show that we are making the right decision in refusing it, would even back it up further that, you know, opening ourselves up to challenge, is that the chance of that challenge succeeding if we refuse it is even greater. Sorry, if we approve it rather than refuse it. It would seem to me the LEP is going to get amended and get amended soonish, and that the applicants should have hope that at some stage Tumut would come into line with Tumbarumba rather than go the other way, and that everybody who has parcels of land that are less than the current subdividable amount, if we approve this, we then say, well, you know, why can't we? And so it would be a sort of an undermining of the LEP. So I still stand by my motion.
Thank you, councillor Packard. Councillors, we've got the one recommendation, big one. All those in favour? So we have councillor Thompson, councillor Packard, councillor Inglis, councillor Hardwick, councillor Hagg. And against? Councillor Hayes, councillor Larter, councillor Words. Thank you, councillors. On to 11.4, post-exhibition draft companion animals. Oh, and councillor Sheldon?
I'll move this one.
Can
Councillor Sheldon needs to get back in.
He's gone down the street and got a hot dog. Sorry. Are you serious, councillor Hayes? You want 11.4?
Oh, yes.
Yes, this is your time. Councillor Hayes and seconded by councillor Hardwick. Councillor Hayes.
This created a lot of interest and anguish and discussion in the community, and made a little bit of sense.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Can I seek clarification? Through you, Madam Mayor, possibly to the Director of Corporate and the other bits that go with it. I just, yeah, anyway. Can I just seek a clarification that the fact that we use the opening line is not proceed with the draft policy means that we will still be responding to concerns that arise through the community should there be problems with dogs and cats and issues like that, but it's something that council is not seeking to go out and look for. And the fact that the legislation or the Companion Animals Act 1998 provides council with enough framework to be able to manage those.
That's correct. Through the chair, essentially what this report is seeking to do is not proceed with the draft policy. We'll rely upon the statutory provisions under the Local Government Act and also the Companion Animals Act. And what we're going to do is seek to prepare a guideline to instruct the regulatory services staff on how to apply those provisions under the Act that are already there across all councils in New South Wales.
Thank you. Any other comments, councillors? We have to close the debate.
I'd like to thank Nick for all his work.
Yeah. This needs to be.
Good result. Yeah.
Okay, 11.4, the three recommendations. All those in favour? Yep. Unanimous. I think that's right, councillor Sheldon, isn't it? You? 11.5, draft asbestos management policy for public exhibition. Three recommendations to be moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Hayes. Councillor Thompson.
No, just make good to have it. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous. We skip 11.6, thank you for that discussion earlier on. Now, minutes of the committee meeting. 12.1, minutes of the audit, risk and improvement committee, the 29th of May. There's one recommendation to the minutes.
Yeah, move that way. Just note that the audit,
We might just have a second then.
oh, sorry.
Hardwick. Councillor Hardwick. Thank you.
Hardwick.
Councillor Hayes. Councillor Packard.
So just, it would be of interest to the councillors to know, because it's been brought up about our fleet management and how that's dealt with. One of the issues that the ARIC was looking at to work on in conjunction with our internal auditor was to look at the fleet fleet management practices and issues around that.
If RFS.
No, our internal fleet was one of the, there was a list of things for the potentially pop to the internal auditor. And I believe that general fleet management is one of those issues for them to just analyse.
So, yes, coming back to me for our internal audit plan.
Yeah,
for the next 4 years,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
So that if we could perhaps promote that because it's been of interest to council and councillors to have them look at that earlier in their schedule rather than later.
Thank you. Any other discussion? As I put that motion to you, all those in favour? Unanimous. 4.2 minutes of traffic committee audit for day, 2025.
Two recommendations.
Two recommendations with quite a few items to be taken into consideration. I beg your pardon, who's moving that? Hayes, Sheldon.
Can I move that with a change to item 8.4? 1, that the traffic committee endorses that a 2-hour parking restriction is put in place during the hours of 9 to 5.
Councillors, are we all in agreement? Are you in agreement, Councillor Sheldon?
Yes,
Yep. Everyone else?
Prohibitive that.
Yeah, one will go very quickly. Yep. 2 hours parking. Okay, that amendment being made. Okay, Councillor Hayes, anything else?
Yes, and can I also ask, some time ago, there was an accident leading into Adelong where a vehicle went through a house on the corner of Lynch Street and the highway. The resident there asked whether the traffic committee could consider asking Transport for New South Wales to put some barriers up there, which makes a lot of sense to me. Nothing has happened, so can we ask the director?
Can that be noted? Yes.
Someone to follow up on that, please.
Corner of Lynch and the highway.
And Councillor Sheldon?
I need to seek clarification, Madam Mayor,
Sure.
on item 8.5. 2-hour parking 7 days a week on Fitzroy Street. Should that be a little bit more defined?
I think does it not state that it's between?
No, it doesn't.
Outdoors and where did I see that?
It does at the email.
It does say that.
Oh, okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I sent the councillors an email just clarifying, we'll have that in your inbox, Councillor Sheldon, that it's between Golden Chook and Tom's Outdoors, so it's 50 to 60 Fitzroy Street. That's it, just in that area.
Oh. I would have asked further down opposite Woolworths and that too, where it gets very.
That's what was requested. That was
Okay. Golden from the pub, really from the courthouse down.
Yeah, from the courthouse to the car wash. This side of the
50
car
to
wash.
60, yeah, Fitzroy, which is roughly that. I've got the Golden Chook.
Yeah, even with those shops that are all fully tenanted now down.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. Mitchell, the thing with that was that we were going to talk to the shop owners further down to see what they wanted, because there's a hairdresser, a chiropractor, a florist, and a 4x4
Mechanic.
or not a mechanic. He just sells 4x4 stuff, doesn't he? So
Mechanic, he did motor registrations and things like that. Pink slips.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we can do that, Councillor Thompson, because we're going to have to consult with the property owners in that section of Fitzroy Street anyway,
yes,
before we make this change.
because I think that was one of the yeah.
And when we do that consultation, if the other stakeholders come in and say we'd like it extended, that when it comes back to traffic committee can be adoption, can be resolved then.
Because it does say it be considered, it's not saying it be implemented, so it does say it be considered, and that council will consult with the business houses and residents within the area. Because what was happening is, again, people were parking long-term, which was taking away from people being able to park out front and go.
And does it impact both sides of the street?
There's not that much parking on the other
No,
side.
it's just that side, the chook side.
The Chook side, at least we know now.
The battered south. Haven't you seen it's changed its name?
The takeaway.
Okay, it's not, but we know where you're talking about. Okay, councillor Hayes, are you closing the tape? Ready to go?
Sorry, councillor Larda, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I beg your pardon, councillor Larda.
I just wanted to see if there was any update on the bollards around the pool.
That's another one we had talked about, the,
Councillor Hayes, Larda, can we take that on notice and get back to you on that? Cynthia, thank you.
Come to the committee.
Yeah, but yeah, it's now noted. You right now?
yes, so I can give a little bit more explanation on that, just to keep the pool safe and vehicles going over there. There's been numerous requests for bollards and
Long
even,
fence line.
even practical solutions and photographs supplied, so.
Sounds like a good idea.
It sounds like a good idea, just a safety idea. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we've got those two recommendations. All those in favour? All those in favour, unanimous. Thank you.
Can we get councillor Wirtz back in, Madam Mayor?
That's my fault.
Now, councillors, we have two different minutes here. One is 12.3, the minutes of the Tumut Aerodrome Committee, and then we have 12.4, the minutes of the extraordinary meeting. Those two, they're both different. We could actually move them both together and then the discussion happen together. Would anyone like to move that way? 12.3 and 12.4 be moved together?
Yeah.
Councillor Hayes. Second, Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Hayes.
Yes, a couple of the committee does a great job, and happy with those. Not sure of any other.
Councillors, any other discussion? Councillor Hardwick.
I attended both these meetings and they were really well discussed. It was good information. It was enjoyable to be.
And a lot of good questions being asked and hopefully answered.
Good community engagement.
Councillor Larda.
Well, I think we need to move into committee to discuss what's going on with the hangar. To be quite honest, I mean the recommendations there really don't have any meaning at all, because the RFS are backed out of essentially those arrangements that are in those recommendations.
Councillor.
Before we move into, if we follow committee, I'd like to say, because councillor Hardwick brought up something that's very relevant, actually, that it was good community engagement, which I think is fantastic. How many people are we talking? That's all I'm just inquiring.
Probably 20?
20, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We're all active members of the Tumut Area Club Committee.
Good.
And then if you read the report, there were really good questions that
No, I read the report, but when councillor Hardwick said it was good community engagement, that sparked my interest, because you can say community engagement and what does that actually mean?
Councillor Larder's asked to go into committee. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? So in favour we've got Inglis, Larter, Hayes, Hardwick, Sheldon, and so against we've got Wirtz and Packard. Okay. Yeah, abstain. Oh yeah, out of the room. Okay, Councillor Larder, do you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, look. To be quite honest, I'm not sure that those recommendations have got any relevance going forward. I mean, there's a number of issues which need to be sorted out here. Firstly, it's now my understanding that the RFS are not the proponent or going to be the caretakers of this hangar, which was initially what was advised to us. Now, Dean Anderson, who's the chair of the Softwoods Working Group, was instrumental in this grant, and he told this extraordinary meeting that the RFS are the benefactor and were always the proponent to occupy this hangar. Now, that is at odds with what the RFS have responded with. The RFS have made it very clear that they're not in the correspondence that I've seen. So that creates a problem for me, because it means that an application for a grant has been sought to the minister with incorrect material and advice, which has then allowed a $3.8 million grant to be awarded with what I believe to be incorrect information. Further to that, Karen Kneep, who works for the Department of Primary Industries, wrote a 3-page letter in support of this hangar, which was full of misrepresentations. It was inaccurate in parts. I believe she's conflicted because she works for the very minister's office that she's writing the report for the grant to be handed out to. I'm not sure that she's got any understanding of aviation whatsoever from the report that I read, and I'm not sure that report that she wrote can be held up in any way to support the application, because it was just, in my opinion, absolute rubbish.
Because of that, that's why all those questions were asked and why we went to the Deputy Commissioner and got those questions. Just before you go on, do you mind if I just defer to the Director of Infrastructure just about what you said at the beginning about who the funding is by, to, and whatever, so that we can be very clear before we go on?
Sure. Look, in through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Arthur, if you read the extraordinary minutes, it's quite clear that this funding for the and it was explained by the chair of the Softwoods Working Group, Dean Anderson, that the process they went through for this grant fund was something that came out of the plantation. It's called now the Plantation Fire Protection Fund. And this has come out of that fund, which was originally a $2.9 million fund, where they then went through a process of identifying priority projects with the Department of Primary Industries, which is what Councillor Arthur is referring to. And then those priority projects were put up to the Minister to approve. And that process was overseen by, well, was accompanied by business cases, but it was also overseen by, I believe, a probity advisor, which was explained at the extraordinary meeting, and then the minister approved the project. So that's the background to why we've got this grant, which council did resolve on to be back in March 24, we did resolve to accept these grants. And then again, I think it was in October of last year. And we're in the process of delivering the 3 projects that we've identified or we've applied for as part of this grant, which is the hangar, the tractor, the slasher, and the water line to Tumut Aerodrome, the raw water line that's been proposed to be able to bring water to Tumut Aerodrome. So that's the background to the grant.
Thank you.
In terms of probity, it was my understanding that Dean Anderson went on to say that the CFA were essentially put onto the committee that decided about the grant because the RFS were conflicted, because they were going to be the recipients of the grant, essentially. And that's why they were not involved in the grant process moving forward. And that makes sense, but it's exactly the same reason why Karen Kneep, who should not have been writing endorsements with misinformation, that those committees would have taken as being accurate. Now they aren't accurate, and that creates a problem, because now the minister is acting on information that's not correct. And in fact,
Councillor Lado, I'll stop you there, because this was actually why we had the extraordinary meeting to go through these decisions, and why we had the questions that we went to the Deputy Commissioner with. I think everyone who's been involved can understand the confusion very much, but what we're doing here is just noting the minutes, and then adopting the recommendations from the minutes. So we've got to, and yeah, I think it's time we had somebody else speak.
How can we do that? The RFS Deputy Commissioner confirmed why a new hangar facility at Sherman Aerodrome is required. The RFS Deputy Commissioner confirmed the status of the proposed fire control centre at Sherman. There is just so many holes that are in here now, and I think this needs to be referred to ICAC. We haven't received any information back from the RFS about the conflict that this is going to create with existing businesses. IPART gave me advice, which we acted on at council, to write to the Commissioner, Rob Rogers, and ask for his reasons as to why he believed his organisation was not in breach of the policy neutrality policy of the state government. He hasn't responded, to the best of my knowledge.
But we asked those questions, and they are being answered on page 578 and 579.
I don't think they are. They haven't written. He hasn't written back to us formally, which was what the requirement was of what we asked for at the council. We asked. We sent a letter demanding that he respond in relation to the issues that were raised.
Should that be the case, we'll follow that up, Councillor Lada, and thank you, that's now noted.
But what are we doing about what's going on here? I mean, now the council made the decision, Madam Mayor, that was based on the RFS being the occupier of this hangar. That was my understanding of it. That was.
We have spoken about this in the extraordinary meeting.
But that's got the council. But that was the extraordinary meeting, Madam Mayor. Point of order. That was the extraordinary meeting. The councillors were not briefed on that.
Councillor Lada, council has now voted twice on the hangar, so I can't let that argument go ahead, because council.
But they were misled. The council was misled.
Thank you, Councillor Lada. We've noted your concerns. We're all listening to them.
But it's no good. Madam Mayor, it's no good noting concerns. I am telling you that I believe something very, very outrageous has occurred here. In fact, illegal. What's going on? I mean, surely there's going to be some probity in relation to what goes on here. You just cannot just push this to the side and think that everything's all right.
Councillor Lada, I think that's a bit, we have done a lot of work. We've gone to meetings, we've gone to the Deputy Commission, we've answered questions, we've had Softwood's working group speak to us. We have voted twice now for the hangar.
Who is responsible?
If there are concerns, you do know the
responsible for the hangar.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order. And my point of order is that when the Mayor is actually speaking, they have the floor uninterrupted.
And look, Councillor Lada, I know you're passionate about this. I know you have concerns, and we have listened to you, but it is time that we have other councillors speaking to this. Any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Inglis.
Just a brief question. For the first time in 40 years, I went out to the aerodrome last Saturday. Last time I flew in there from Sydney, so it was a long time ago. But there seemed to be a hell of a lot of earthworks going on still out there. Has there been some setback? Could I ask through you?
I went out there for the first time, since the earthworks recently, with Councillor Words, Councillor Hayes, Councillor.
I think what Councillor Inglis is alluding to is that there's a lot of work still going on, yet we're going to seal in a moment.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Yes.
Maybe over to the Director of Infrastructure. I missed it completely, sorry.
I thought it was due to be sealed with a light seal by the end of June.
Oh, I beg your pardon, yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can answer Councillor Inglis's question. We can't seal at the moment, Councillor Inglis, do any sealing works because of the cold temperatures, the ambient temperatures. So what we're doing is we're still aiming to have the runway open and operational, but it will be a gravel runway. And so we've been in discussions with CASA this week, today, about getting that approval to do that, which is quite acceptable. There's a lot of gravel, what I call dirt runways, in regional areas. So that's still our intention, to meet the grant funding requirements, but also to have the aerodrome operational on a gravel runway by the end of this month or the first week of July, and we're on track to do that. And then come back in the warmer months for 2 weeks and do the sealing works, do the proper final sealing works of that gravel runway, taxiways and aprons.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Packard?
Just a quick question on the recommendations. I mean, this is a recommendation from the committee meeting to us. Have we written to the Deputy Commissioner on points A and B? Or have we sort of jumped the gun doing that, or are we moving it so that
The answers to that are all in your paper, in the attachments. So not only have we written to them, we've got the answers.
doesn't that seem like it's jumped the gun? We haven't.
No, because they were the recommendations done on the 27th of May. So we've acted on them. So we had the answers in time for this meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
You just, to expedite things, otherwise we'd have to wait another 6 weeks.
So, well, what I'm getting at is there's really no point in debating this because it's been done already.
So we're still in committee.
I think, from what I understand, there's still a lot of confusion. I'm not quite sure. I know Madam Mayor's explained to me a couple of times, but I was under the illusion that we were applying for a grant, or helping apply for a grant, I should say, the council was, to assist the RFS set up a hangar. Because I can remember back, I think the previous general manager, interim general manager, got a bit upset with me when I called it a garden shed. And there was a lot of support, but I was under the illusion that it was for the RFS. So I'm just.
Supports working group.
Can I sorry, but that's none of this is relevant to the motion which is in front of us. The motion in front of us is we vote to accept these recommendations which have already been enacted. All of this is somewhat peripheral to it.
Would you like to vote to go out of committee?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Packard works. Okay, we're back into debate now. Sorry?
Vote on whether we go to committee.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay.
Councillor Inglis spoke, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
Did you vote to go out of committee?
No, I'm in favour of. Thank you.
Of going out of committee? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that means closing debate, councillor Hayes.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Well,
thank you.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I'd like to
You've
speak
just-
against.
You've had a debate.
I'd like to speak
Pardon?
against the motion,
Yeah,
Madam.
he spoke in the beginning. He
I
spoke.
haven't spoken at all. I spoke in committee.
I suppose, yeah, when you spoke, you asked to go in committee. Fair enough. Off you go.
Can I just raise this point? Dean Anderson, in the extraordinary meeting attended by a few councillors, was asked, question to Dean, is it your understanding that the RFS were going to be the occupier of this hangar at Tumut Aerodrome all year round? Question mark. Response. Dean Anderson stated that the RFS are the owner and manager of the site and would use it when they needed to. Committee members stated that this is now different to what is being stated by the RFS, who are saying it's a council building and facility. Who owns this hangar now? Who's the proponent of this? Who's going to be responsible for the $3.8 million to hang a helicopter there one day a year. I mean, this is obscene.
Councillor Larder, that is a question, and I'll refer again to Director of Infrastructure. And I think it would be good if the Director of Infrastructure could also say how far along the track we are with this project already.
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. So the answer to the questions is in the back of the extraordinary meeting minutes on pages 578, 579, where those questions were put to the RFS. So there's answers in red there. They're the responses from the RFS about the status of the hangar. And in terms of where the project's at the moment, we're in the process of doing the final designs for the hangar and getting it out to tender so that it can be constructed and built by the end of this calendar year.
This calendar year, next calendar year.
No, I just
2024.
Oh, this calendar, not,
Yeah.
not.
By fire season.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for this hangar?
Councillor Words.
I just like to say, like, RFS assets are an issue across the board in this in this shire, in the Snowy Valleys, and all regional councils. It's not a surprise that the RFS are saying that it is a council asset, because technically, according to the RFS and the state government, all RFS assets sit on our books. So it's an issue that really needs to be dealt with at the state level. From what I can see on these motions, it looks like the RFS will try and build a regional fire control centre, and I'm assuming that this RFS hangar will be alongside that control centre, and that might not come to completion until the end of the decade. But I'm hoping that it does come to completion, and that we do have really strong firefighting capabilities in this Snowy Valleys Council, because otherwise, if we do have another major fire event and we can't stop the fires, it's going to be devastating for the economy and the entire community at large. So I would say I agree with noting this. It is just noting the minutes, but I would also agree that the RFS is, I think we need to support it. And if we do have to have it on our books, so be it.
Thank you, Councillor Works.
I just say it's no different to every other RFS asset. RFS have the trucks and they have the fire sheds and they have everything, but it's on council's books. So what's the difference with that?
There is a difference here in the fact that it will be a council asset and we can actually make some money out of it and sublease it. Oh, well, not, we can lease it.
Well, as you know, that is absolute rubbish. We won't be able to lease it. Look, at the end of the day, this is absolutely preposterous that we are allowing a state government entity to put a government.
Councillor Larder, you've had your
listen,
turn.
we are putting
Councillor Sheldon.
I haven't finished yet from the previous.
Councillor Larder, you've had your debate. Councillor Sheldon.
I just muted.
Through the General Manager or you, Madam Mayor, I would like to ask the Chief Financial Officer the depreciation impact on council's budget for next year.
And that's with regards to the RFS assets?
Yes, no, just the
hangar.
Just the hangar, please.
Yeah, so I think at a high level, when I had calculated the depreciation, it was coming up to approx 120 to 130K annually, and an ongoing basis. So yeah, that's on the cost basis and with the useful life of 50 years or something. But yeah, that's at a really high level.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Words, you've had your.
I'd just like to ask
a question or clarification.
Yeah, the Director of Infrastructure about the proposed construction of the asset and whether the tender would come in under the proposed 3.8 million, which seems rather expensive for an asset like a shed, and what the implications of that proposed budget and also the excess funds that would be available and how they could be utilised for the aerodrome as a whole.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, in response to Councillor Wirtz's query, we would go to tender as we do, and we're running the tender on this project. And if tenders do come in under the allocated budget, we have to notify the funding body whether we're going to spend the allocation of the funds. And if we're confident that we're not, scenario that we're confident we're not going to spend all the funds, then two scenarios can occur. One is we'll be asked to hand the money back, the unspent money, or we can ask for a variation to the funding agreement to use that money for some other purpose at this stage. And what we do in that situation is we bring a report to council to say, where would you like, if the funding body agrees to a variation, that money to be spent.
Thanks.
Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Larder for his passion and his input. In this case, you know, during the fires, it was a very emotional time. It was a very hard time, and out of that, we've got some quite good assets that will come to pass. Now, I think that the aerodrome upgrade will be very, very useful, and I'd like to see us include some extra things in our advocacy plan to get it further along the track as well. I think that this hangar, you know, there's schools of thought for and against. It will be built on our land, which is freehold land, by us, with somebody else's money. So it is an asset that we can utilise. And although I agree in some case with Councillor Larder about you know, the issue of anti-competitive behaviour, and I really want to make sure, I want to be very certain that doesn't happen. I want to make sure that nobody is worse off because of this project. So we need to be very diligent as a council to make sure we're looking after our community. So in saying that, you know, we will have an asset that we can utilise, that we can lease out hopefully and make some money on. So I'm hopeful that it goes forward without too much upset.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillors, I put the recommendations from 12.3 and 12.4. There's one and then the two for 12.4. All those in favour? Okay, so we've got Thompson, Packard, Hayes, Hardwick, Works, Sheldon, and against,
Sorry.
yes, no, Inglis against Larder. Councillors, thank you very much for all your time. Thank you for reading your papers. Thank you for coming to Tumbarumba. It was very much appreciated.